Yes, good afternoon, everyone. It's FA Cup third round day, a day when the lower leagues and even non-league clubs get to come to the party and waltz with the Premier League superstars. There will be shock results, there will be goals, and the giants of English football looking to win through to their FA Cup final dream at Wembley Stadium come May. We'll also cross over to Spain to see if Samuel Chukwueze can help Villarreal upset Real Madrid in the newly reopened Estadio de la Ceramica. Can the Yellow Submarine claim a qualification place in the European places in the table tonight? If they do so, they will hand back the initiative in that title race over in Spain to Barcelona. Our very own Patrick Naret will be watching that intriguing matchup and keeping us up to date with the action as it unfolds. We've got some cracking FA Cup ties. Fulham are in good form. Can they go all the way? Richard Bond will be watching Hull City against Fulham at the K-Kong. Brighton have made the long trip north to take on in-form Championship team Middlesbrough, who are, of course, now managed by former Manchester United man Michael Carrick. We'll be hearing from him very shortly. This could be an upset, this one at the Riverside, and our man watching that game up in the north East is going to surely enjoy that game, Richard Bond. And Nottingham Forest, well, they haven't won the Cup since 1959. You have to go back to 1952 for the last time that Blackpool won it. They meet this afternoon at Bloomfield Road. Championship gets Premier League in this one as well. Andrew Buonocore is seaside bound for Football Live this afternoon. And down on the south coast, Bournemouth and Burnley meet. Vincent Kompany, remember him of Manchester City fame? Well, he's now the Burnley manager. They're running away with the championship. These two swapped places last summer, and they could swap places again come the end of this season. Not sure if this would be a shock if Premier League succumbed to Championship on this particular tie. We've sent Josh Bailey and his Cup Shock radar to check out the tie. Now, before we go and gather some all-important team news from our featured matches, we'd like to quickly reflect on a true football legend who sadly passed away yesterday. Gianluca Vialli was a sensation in Serie A and in the Premier League, who enjoyed considerable success as a player and a manager. Football Live's Andrew Buonocore is a man with deep Italian roots, and we turn to him to voice his tribute.
Vialli was a supreme forward player who dedicated his life to his craft. A lifelong teetotaler, he even refused to drink coffee while he was a professional in case the caffeine affected his body. At Sampdoria, he was one of the famous Gemelli del Gol, the Goal Twins, with his lifelong friend Roberto Mancini. Luca went on to join the Chelsea revolution under Roman Abramovich, winning 3 trophies in London as a player, player-manager and manager. When Mancini assumed the role of national manager, he immediately installed his friend Vialli as team coordinator, a role he stepped away from in December 2022 to focus his recovery. It was with Vialli by his side that Mancini famously won the Euros in 2021. Luca Vialli was loved everywhere he went, and he shares a special bond with several clubs across Europe. He will be sorely missed.
Well, we'll start on the south coast, shall we? Bournemouth against Burnley. Just how good are the runaway Championship leaders this season? Vincent Kompany's doing a remarkable job. Josh Bailey, I've got a feeling this might go some way to answering a few questions about Burnley.
It does. I mean, Burnley have been absolutely terrific in the Championship. They have won 11 games of their last 13. They're in absolutely phenomenal form. And Vincent Kompany, there are many questions about Kompany, but he's doing absolutely brilliant in changing the way Burnley Football Club operate on and off the pitch. Less can be said about Bournemouth, though. Coming into this game, they have lost 4 games in a row. It's not great after they were taken over by none else than Hollywood star Michael Jordan, but unfortunately that takeover and the positivity around that really hasn't changed their results, and they go there today then hoping for, well, visiting Burnley and hoping to change that, and they make 3 changes to their team today. Then it is Stephens and Zamora who start, and also Rothwell who comes into a team that apart from that is unchanged. It's the familiar face of Travers in goal with a back 4 of Smith, Stellans, Senaisi and Zamora. It's in a midfield three of Billing, Cook and Rothwell, with the familiar front three of Anthony, Solanke and Christie. As for Burnley then, well, it's unchanged for them as Peacock Farrell comes in at goal. It's then Robert, Harwood, Bellis, it's Byron Taylor as the back four. It's Cullen and Brown who will line up as the two midfielders, and then it's Goodmanson and Zarawi who start out wide, and it's Manuel who lines up behind number 10 Barnes. This is the second time in the last 3 seasons that Bournemouth will be facing Burnley in the FA Cup. Yes, in the FA Cup, and with the Cherries they won both of those games 2-0 in the 5th round in 2021. Two teams then who are in different leagues. However, they swapped positions last year, and as it stands at the moment, they might be swapping positions again this year. So it's going to be a really good taste of how well Burnley could be doing in the Premier League next year. This one comes up against 3 o'clock. It's going to be a feisty and well-contested match, this one.
Thank you very much, Josh. Now, Middlesbrough have climbed the championship table since former Manchester United favourite Michael Carrick took charge. Today they face Brighton and Hove Albion. For me, one of the ties of the round. Here is Michael Carrick talking about today's cup tie.
Yeah, listen, the boys are obviously in a good place. We've had a decent run. It's another game. It's another great opportunity for us to try and get better and put in a good performance. It's a tough game, I have to say. I think they're a terrific team. I think they're doing some really good things at the moment, and especially in possession. Every game they've played, they've caused any team all sorts of problems. So we'll be ready for that. Looking forward to it, actually, and then see what we can do when we have the ball. It's two sides of football. So we've been doing some good things of late ourselves, and we want to continue that.
Well, Carrick also confirmed on Thursday that Middlesbrough have exercised a 12-month contract extension for their top scorer, Chuba Akpom, who has been firing in the goals. He's the top scorer in the championship this season, and he is eligible to play for Nigeria. Watching at the Riverside with all the team news is Jackson Cole.
Afternoon, and it is Chuba Akpom. He does start today. It's Middlesbrough versus Brighton, two sides who have never won the FA Cup, although both Borough and the Seagulls have made the final of the oldest cup competition in football. The Teessiders loses to Chelsea in 1997, while Brighton lost to Manchester United in 1983. Middlesbrough, they love the magic of the cup, having beaten Manchester United and Tottenham in last season's competition. But Michael Carrick will feel surely that a Premier League promotion push is the priority. However, the Borough boss has gone for a strong starting 11 with only one change made from their win over Birmingham in the Championship earlier this week. In goal is Zach Steffen. In defence is Tommy Smith, Dale Fry, Paddy McNair and Ryan Giles. Midfield you have captain Johnny Howson and Hayden Hackney. And in attack is Marcus Force, Ryan McGree, Chuba Akpom, who is eligible to play for Nigeria as Barry mentioned, and Matt Crooks. On the bench, there's also a place for striker Cameron Archer, who joined on loan from Aston Villa yesterday. Roberto De Zerbi has made 4 changes to his Brighton side that served Everton a 4-1 humiliation in the Premier League on Tuesday, with goalkeeper Jason Steele, Tariq Lamptey, Adam Lallana and Jan-Paul van Heck coming in. So the full team is Steele in goal. In defence is Lamptey, Levi Colwell, Van Heck, Purvis Estupinan. Midfield, you have Moises Caicedo, Lallana, Solly March, Pascal Gross, and Kaoru Mitoma. And up front, you have 18-year-old Evan Ferguson looking for his 3rd goal in successive games. It's Middlesbrough versus Brighton. Kickoff coming shortly.
Thank you very much for that, Jackson. Now, Jackson was mentioning there that those two sides have never won the FA Cup, but they've both been to the final. Well, Hull City and Fulham have both reached the FA Cup final once, and they lost on those occasions that they reached the final. Hull City more recently than Fulham. Another championship against Premier League encounter. 2 managers facing their old clubs. Liam Rossinia, once a Fulham fullback. Marco Silva, a Fulham manager formerly of Hull City, where he started his managerial career in this country, of course, in England. Richard Bond is all eyes on this one at the KCOM. Any interesting team news, Richard?
Good afternoon, Barry. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the MKM Stadium, where we've got an enthralling contest in store for you between Championship side Hull and Premier League Fulham. Tigers are having a rocky season so far, 16th in the Championship, but have had somewhat of a resurgent run of form under Liam Rossinia. Their rise from the relegation places have seen them defeated only once in the 8 games since Rossinia's taken charge after replacing Georgian Shota Avaladze at the helm prior to the winter break. As you say, ex-player Rossignol has a strong affiliation with the drama of the FA Cup, having been part of the Tigers side that narrowly lost 3-2 to an Aaron Ramsey goal for Arsenal in extra time in 2014. Looking to inflict a cup shock, Rossignol has made plenty of changes today, though, rotating this lineup, making 9 changes to this lineup, emphatically beat Wigan 4-1 at the DW Stadium on Monday night. Top scorer has been informed this season, Oskar Stupinan, scored his 11th of the season against the Lactics. He's back in form with 3 goals in as many games. He can be called upon from the bench if needed later into the game, as Hull continue with their familiar 4-2-3-1 formation. With only goalkeeper Matt Ingram and midfielder Greg Doherty starting from the last match. There's a start for Louis Coyle, who skippers the side today and plays for Australian international Callum Elder at the back. Harvey Vale and Javier Simmons on loan from Chelsea are exciting prospects in midfield, whilst there's a rare outing up front for Tyler Smith, being supported by four-goal attacking midfielder Ozan Tufan. As for Fulham, well, they've enjoyed an impressive first half of the season on their return to the Premier League after earning their place back in the top flight as runaway championship winners last year. With Alexander Mitrovic's 11th goal of the season in Tuesday night's 1-0 away victory against Leicester at the King Power Stadium, was their Cottagers' 3rd win on the bounce since Premier League's resumption from the winter break and in clearly good form. Marco Silva's side now find themselves in the lofty heights of 7th place in the table in that Europa qualification spot. But this is a different challenge. It's the FA Cup. Mindful for the fixtures also, they're going to have to play in the next couple of weeks now, including Thursday's London derby against Chelsea at Craven Cottage. The former Hull, Watford and Everton manager has chosen to rotate his side for the cup clash, making 8 changes. Mitrovic misses out with a knock and he's going to be banned on Thursday, so I think really a bit of a rest for him today, not in the squad at all. Regulars Bobby Decordova-Reid, Andres Pereira do start, and there's a start up front for Carlos Vinicius, the Brazilian. He hasn't scored in his 10 games that he's played for Fulham so far, but it'll be a good opportunity for him against the Championship side. We've also got starts for Dan James and Harry Wilson into midfield, looking to be the creative side of play, whilst Tom Kearney skippers the side. There's also starting goals for Marek Rodak, and Shane Duffy misses out in defence with illness. So we're looking for a good game today now with plenty of cup fever in the air. Fingers crossed, looking for a good one here on Football Live.
Well, thank you very much for that one, Richard. Carlos Vinicius in for Mitrovic. Hasn't scored for Fulham competitively. Did actually head a really good goal in a friendly against West Ham a week before the restart just recently. So he does know where the net is. Now, Alexander Mitrovic, he's resting today, suspended on Thursday. We managed to catch up with him and spoke to him about, well, Fulham on cloud 9 at the moment, 3 wins out of 3, but he's trying to keep his feet firmly on the ground.
We stay with both feet on the ground, and let's see what's going to happen at the end. But we go game by game, focus on next one. That's a cup game, and we try to do everything for this club, and we enjoy. We love it, really. We love our time in the Premier League. We love every game. We love playing under this manager, and this is a dream for us. So we try to keep this dream going.
Now, Steve Cooper's Blackpool are off to the seaside. Success at Southampton on Wednesday saw Forest rocket up the table towards mid-table, out of the bottom 3. Blackpool are currently in the bottom 3 in the Championship, far from safe. Andrew Bonacuri, what's the team news at Bloomfield Road?
Good afternoon, Barry, and welcome to the seaside. It's 22nd in the Championship versus 15th in the Premier League, but these clubs did meet twice last season in the EFL, with Forest winning both games before leaving Blackpool behind to join the elites in the top flight. There was a time a few weeks ago when Forest boss Steve Cooper was leading the sack race, but his army of new signings over the summer finally gelled going into the World Cup break, and he is faced with the choice of trying to put together a good cup run or focus his attention on keeping that precious Premier League spot. Well, he's decided to field a strong side for this FA Cup game as he looks to maintain momentum. Nigeria's Taiwo Iwonyi misses out after he sustained an injury during the week against Southampton, but his compatriot Emmanuel Dennis does start up front. A new Brazilian signing, Gustavo Scarpa, the man with the shoe for a name, makes his first appearance in midfield for Forest. Blackpool won the FA Cup exactly 70 years ago, and boss Michael Appleton is having to do without striker Gary Medine because of injury, but otherwise he has the luxury of an unchanged side from the New Year's Day draw against Sunderland. New loan signing Josh Bowler, coming in from Forest, is ineligible for today's clash. Something of a free hit for the Seasiders as they continue to fight for their place in the Championship, while Forest continue to build towards the sharp end of the season in the Premier League. From Bloomfield Road, it's Blackpool versus Nottingham Forest in the FA Cup.
Thank you very much for that. Andrew Brila be keeping a close eye on events as they unfold at the chilly Bloomfield Road. We will cross back to Andrew just for a second, because we did hear a tribute just now, Andrew, if you're still with us, on Vialli, Gianluca Vialli from you earlier. And I think it's fair to say that football has lost a true legend, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's very easy to eulogise people when they're gone, but with Vialli, there's really no need to view his life through rose-tinted glasses. The love that people had for him across Europe especially is obvious. We saw Graham Souness in tears while speaking about Luca, and this morning, the words of his Sampdoria strike partner Mancini, who spoke of losing his little brother, and of 2 nights that they shared together at Wembley, one ending in tears of defeat after losing a Champions League final with Sampdoria, the second, of course, ending with tears of joy. But people often talk of 2 Viallis. There's Vialli the player, and then Vialli the man. And anyone that knew him as a player and as a person can only speak in the highest of terms. That today's Italian newspapers are plastered with emotional photos of, especially that image of, adult men, Vialli and Mancini, lifelong friends who've known each other since they were boys, embracing each other on the pitch after Italy's victory in the Euros final in 2021. An image that's all the more poignant today with headlines such as "An eternal hug" and "Thank you for everything." So it's been an emotional few weeks for Italian football as Sinisa Mihajlovic also unfortunately was lost to leukemia. But Vialli was a player universally liked across Italy, despite playing for Juventus, who are traditionally almost the Man United of Liverpool, something of an enemy in Italian football for a lot of fans. But in the same way that you have someone like Ian Wright, who everyone wanted him to play for their team, Vialli really was that man, popular in Italy and extremely popular in England as well. He really, really will be missed, and his loss has been very deeply felt in Italian football.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Andrew. Tell you what, let's take this opportunity to have a listen to a brief interview with the man himself, Gianluca Vialli. This was back in 2016. Have a look, have a listen to this. Quite an interesting assumption of himself.
I've been lucky. No, I've been lucky because someone says that in order to be successful, you need to identify early and clearly what you want to do in life. And when I was 3, someone threw a ball at me, I kicked it, and I realized what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So I had a little advantage. No, but I've been very lucky because I've done what I wanted to do. I've made money, I've been successful, I've met so many incredible people. I've been living in Cremona, Turin, Genoa, and finally London. And, it's just the best.
That was Gianluca Vialli speaking back in 2016. Kicking off right now, 4 matches that we've got covered in the FA Cup Premier League against Championship. And each of those 4 matches will be round the grounds as and when the action unfolds with Josh Bailey, Jackson Cole, Richard Bond and Andrew Bonacori. But that doesn't end our coverage right there. In around about 10-11 minutes time, there's a game kicking off in the Spanish League, in La Liga. It's a big one as well. Villarreal against Real Madrid. Bringing us team news ahead of kickoff in this one is our very own Patrick Norret.
Good afternoon, Barry. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Stadio de la Carrima. I said that near enough anyway. Villarreal takes on Real Madrid, which is going to be an interesting game, actually, because Villarreal won their last game 2-1, and Real Madrid are looking to win 3 consecutive games in the La Liga. So with team news, I've got it for you. We're about 10 away from kickoff. It looks like for Villarreal, we got Reina in goal, a back four, Moreno, Torres, Albiol, and Foyth. And in midfield, we got Rodriguez, Parejo, and Coquelin, of course, the ex-Arsenal dynamic midfield player. And we got Jeremy, Marcelo, and the Nigerian Samuel Chizuke on the right-hand side. Let's see if it's going to make a difference today. So that's the Real team. With regard to Real Madrid, they brought out the big guns. So you've got a 4-3-3 formation they're playing with Courtois in goal, a back four of Mendy, Alaba, Rudiger, and Adea Militao. In midfield, Modric, Tomini and Cruz. And at front, of course, Vinicius Jr. on the left-hand side. The man himself now retired from the international scene, which is Karim Benzema. And on the right-hand side, Valdivia. That's going to be an interesting game, but I'm looking forward to this one. And kick off in about 9 minutes' time.
Yeah, really looking forward to that one. So Samuel Chukwueze on the bench at the Estadio della Ceramica. I think that's how they say it. We'll get there between me and Patrick, between us. Now, I gather there has been a goal in one of our featured games. And we will be hearing from that just as soon as it comes in. And it's at Bournemouth against Burnley. So as soon as we find out where that goal has come in from, I will, of course, let you know right here. So it's Bournemouth against Burnley. They've played just a few minutes in that game. And it's Burnley, I can tell you, that have taken the lead, a goal through Benson. And we will cross over to Josh Bailey at the Vitality Stadium very shortly to hear about that one. It wasn't the quickest goal in the FA Cup amongst the 3 o'clock UK time kickoffs, because Brandon Thomas Asante scored inside the opening 2 minutes for Championship side West Bromwich Albion in their game against non-league Chesterfield. Chesterfield 0, West Bromwich Albion 1. So West Bromwich Albion are the Championship winning away at non-league Chesterfield, and Bournemouth are the Premier League losing at home against Burnley. And we'll be across to Josh just in a few moments time. Whilst we, in fact, I tell you what, let's go to Josh straight away, shall we? And we'll hear about that goal. Josh Bailey is at the Vitality Stadium.
Well, we said this is a game that maybe one of the Premier League giants would be shocked. And right now, it's Burnley who have taken the lead in this fixture. And it's Benson with the goal. With Benson Manuel is his first name. It is a really, really poor goal to conceive of Bournemouth. They give it away in the middle of the park. It's quick thinking from one of the Burnley players to feed it through to Manuel, who just ran off the shoulder of his defender, threw on goal, only the goalkeeper to beat, and he finished coolly. It was a fantastic, powerful finish into the top right-hand corner of the goal, one-on-one with the goalkeeper, and he came off best. And Burnley lead in this fixture at the Vitality Stadium. 7 minutes gone. It's Bournemouth 0, Burnley 1.
Well, thank you very much for that, Josh. Didn't take us long at all to get in amongst the goals. There's also a goal involving another non-league side in action in the FA Cup third round this afternoon. Ryan Astley has scored for Accrington Stanley at Meadow Park against Boreham Wood. So Boreham Wood of the National League 0, Maidstone United 1. All our 4 games today are involving the Championship and, of course, the Premier League. So we will keep a very close eye on the goals as they go in. And you know what? It doesn't take very long for those goals to hit the back of the net. Another goal has gone in, and this time, well, it's at the Riverside. Middlesbrough 0, Brighton 1. Pascal Gross with the goal for the Seagulls. It's a long trip up to Middlesbrough, isn't it? And they've wasted no time, Brighton. Scored 4 against Everton at Goodison Park in midweek. And they are firing on all cylinders away from home at the moment. Brighton and Hove Albion leading at Middlesbrough by a 1-0. And of course, we will be straight across to Jackson Cole in just a minute to hear about that goal. Earlier on today in the FA Cup, Forest Green against Birmingham City at the New Lawn. Sadly, that one was postponed due to a waterlogged pitch over in Gloucestershire. Preston North End came from behind to beat Huddersfield by 3-1. This after the Swiss Florian Kamberi scored on his debut for Huddersfield. Crystal Palace, well, they lost at home to Southampton by 2-1 at Selhurst Park. They led in that game. Joe Aribo starting for Southampton. James Ward-Prowse and Alan Armstrong, his first goal in 16, giving the visitors Southampton a victory away at Palace. A horrible week for Palace, losing 4-0 at home to Spurs and then crashing out the FA Cup against Southampton today. Of course, they were semi-finalists last season, Crystal Palace, but not this time out. So Palace go crashing out at the first hurdle. Tottenham Hotspur put a very strong side out at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium against League One managerless Portsmouth, but they needed a goal just after half-time from Harry Kane to win that one by 1-0. The Nigerian Josh Oluwayemi was amongst the substitutes for Pompey, who started the game with 10 Englishmen and 1 Welshman in their side. Let's cross to Jackson Cole. Let's hear all about that goal that Brighton scored in the game at Middlesbrough.
Yes, it's Middlesbrough 0, Brighton 1, and it's Pascal Gross who's given the Seagulls the lead. It was all very simple for Brighton, although there was poor play from Middlesbrough. They lost the ball in a dangerous position in their own half. Then there was neat Premier League class, one-touch play. The ball fell to Solly March. His shot was saved, but there was Pascal Gross in on the rebound to net in the loose ball. Interestingly, the two sides, they met each other at this stage 5 years ago. Pascal Gross, he is the only survivor from that match. And as things stand, he'll be the match winner. It's Middlesbrough 0, Brighton 1.
You are listening to Football Live on Brila FM.
Don't forget to interact with us on social media here at Brila FM, at Brila FM 889 on Twitter and on Facebook at 889 Brila FM. So Bournemouth 0, Burnley 1, Blackpool 0, Nottingham Forest. Blackpool 0, Nottingham Forest 0, Hull 0, Fulham 0, and Middlesbrough are 1-0 down at home to Brighton. And there are 4 featured games. They're just getting underway in a couple of minutes' time. Villarreal against Real Madrid. I can tell you there has been a goal in one of those games, and I'll tell you all about it in just a second. It's another goal at the Vitality Stadium. And I can tell you that Bournemouth, through Ryan Christie on 12 minutes, are level in that game. Premier League strugglers against runaway leaders in the Championship. It's 1-1. Sounds like a good game, that one. And we will be straight across to Josh Bailey, who can tell us all about that second goal in just a couple of moments' time. We was talking about the early kickoffs earlier. Tottenham Hotspur beating Portsmouth 1-0. Southampton coming from behind to win at Palace. Huddersfield losing at Preston North End. Watford lost 2-0 to Reading at the Majeski, despite having Maduka Okoye and William Trostekong in their starting lineup. Strong striking lineup that for Watford. They lost to their Championship promotion rivals at the Majeski by 2-0. Ghanaian Kelvin Abrifi with a goal 3 minutes into stoppage time at the end of the first half. Shane Long, the Irish international, with a goal 3 minutes into stoppage time at the end of the second half. Gillingham 0, Leicester City 1. The team that finished, or haven't finished yet, but they are currently bottom of the pile in the EFL, the 4-division structure in England. League 2, they're bottom. They've only scored 7 goals. They've only won 2 games. They lost 1-0 at home to Leicester City today. But good news for Leicester City's Kelechi Iheanacho, the Nigerian international, scoring his first goal in 16 matches just after half-time to give the Foxes, who won the FA Cup less than 2 years ago, victory at Priestfield Down on the Medway. Let's cross to the Vitality, shall we, and hear all about that goal, the equaliser for Bournemouth. Josh Bailey.
It's 2 goals here at the Vitality, and it's 2 mistakes. First mistake was Bournemouth, and this time it was Burnley returning the favour to get Bournemouth level in this game. It was Cullen who gave the ball away right outside the edge of his area as the Bournemouth, they pressed on the ball. It was an awful pass straight into Christie, who from about 12 yards out, right next to the penalty spot, he had the goal all to himself, and he finished brilliantly. It would have been embarrassing if he missed that one, but he didn't, and the scores are now level. It's Bournemouth 1, Burnley 1.
Well, thank you very much, Josh. A goal on the south coast, about 300 miles north. There's a goal at the Riverside. Wow, they are rattling in, aren't they? It's now Middlesbrough 1, Brighton and Hove Albion 1, and we will cross to hear all about that goal from Jackson Cole in just a few moments' time. Middlesbrough were behind in that game, but not for very long. And I can tell you their scorer, none other than Chuba Akpom. He's at it again. No wonder they're trying to exercise that 12-month contract extension. Middlesbrough, he's found the net against Premier League opposition, and it's 1-1 in that game. We told you about the earlier scores in the FA Cup. I can tell you that Chesterfield, non-league Chesterfield, through Tyrone Williams, have equalised against Championship West Bromwich Albion. Maybe a shock is on the cards after all. Chesterfield won, West Bromwich Albion won at the Technique Stadium. They are a non-league club, Chesterfield, but remember, back in 1993, they got to the FA Cup semi-final and they led Middlesbrough by 3-1 at one stage in the semi-final at Old Trafford. They ended up losing in the replay what might have been, but now they're a non-league side battling to get back into the Football League, to the EFL. Let's cross to Jackson Cole. He's at the Riverside. The goals are flowing for him. It's Middlesbrough 1, Brighton 1. Tell us all about the equalising goal, Jackson.
Yeah, the home side are level, and it is that man in form, Chuba Akpom. It's his 14th goal of the season. It was his goal completely against the run of play, to be honest. Brighton have started far better, but in Middlesbrough's first attack, they were down the left. Matt Crooks got in behind, put in a cross from left. It was cleared, but then it was played out to Ryan Giles, who picked out a superb cross for Akpom, who towered over the Brighton defender, and his header just squeezed into the net. Jason Steele got a hand onto it, but it went just over the line. So Middlesbrough 1, Brighton 1. We all know that Chuba Akpom has said he wants to play for Nigeria, and it's going to be very hard for the manager, Gernot Rohr, to ignore him. So it's Middlesbrough 1, Brighton 1.
Thank you very much for that update, Jackson. So Middlesbrough 1, Brighton 1, Bournemouth 1, Burnley 1, Hull City against Fulham. Richard Bond is at the MKM Stadium. Is there any sight of a goal in that particular Championship versus Premier League encounter?
Well, it's been an interesting start so far. It's 0-0 at the moment, but it's Hull who started the better of the two sides. And one of the players I picked up before the game, Harvey Vale on loan from Chelsea, is looking quite lively. He nearly took the lead after the 7 minutes for Hull, latching on to Bobby Decordova-Reid's mistake. He ran through, but he put his shot wide of the post when he probably should have done a bit better. Hull have edged this period. Fulham haven't really got going yet, creating much in terms of in their final third, but despite having quite a lot of the possession. So we're waiting for a goal here at the moment, but it's brewing quite nicely at the minute, I feel. It's Hull City 0, Fulham 0.
Well, Hull City 0, Fulham 0. I was going to tell you it's goalless in the other game between Blackpool and Nottingham Forest, but I'm not going to tell you that. Because it's not goalless. Blackpool have taken the lead against Nottingham Forest at Bloomfield Road. It's a goal from the central defender, Ekpiteta, who has given Blackpool of the Championship, struggling in the bottom three in the relegation places at the moment. They are ahead against Nottingham Forest by 1-0. And we will be with Andrew Bonacuri in just a few moments' time to tell you all about that goal. Marvin Ekpiteta after 17 minutes. Blackpool 1, Nottingham Forest 0. And we will hear all about that in just a few moments' time. It's the Coupe de France in France, and Marseille are 1-0 up just after half-time in their game against lower league Jerez, thanks to a goal from Sanchez. Alexis Sanchez with the goal there. But they have had another former Premier League player sent off after just 15 minutes in that game. Eric Bailly, former Manchester United man, sent off down to 10 men, but they are leading thanks to Alexis Sanchez. A penalty just before half-time. In fact, the half-time whistle is just about to blow. He scored from the spot, so it's Marseille leading in that game by 1-0. So that's where we're at the moment. Let's go to Blackpool, shall we? And they're playing Nottingham Forest. There has been a goal. Andrew Bonacuri, it's gone the way of Blackpool.
Absolutely, it's Blackpool 1, Nottingham Forest 0. We've got a good game here. The goal for Blackpool came after a free kick was given to Blackpool midway in the Forest half, floated in from the right. It was initially cleared by Forest, but Hamilton won it back, floated in across from the left, and Forest just unable to deal with that ball coming in, and it fell to the central defender Ekpiteta, who swept the ball home. Absolutely not against the run of play. The first 10 minutes mostly dominated by Forest, but you could just sense that Blackpool were getting into the game again and gaining some confidence, and they'll be on absolute cloud nine now with that goal from Ekpiteta, making the score Blackpool 1, Nottingham Forest 0.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that, Andrew Bonacori at Bloomfield Road. Plenty of goals in the FA Cup this afternoon. Carlan Ahern-Grant has given West Bromwich Albion a lead for the second time this afternoon. It's now Chesterfield 1, West Bromwich Albion 2 in the game at the Technique Stadium up in Derbyshire. Goal for West Bromwich Albion. They're leading 2-1 in that. They're in good form at the moment, are West Bromwich Albion. And let's cross to, where should we go? I tell you what, let's go to, for the first time since kick-off, the game at Villarreal against Real Madrid. It was a 4:15 kick-off. Patrick Norret, a chance for Villarreal.
Oh, yeah, 6 minutes gone. It's been the old Villarreal dominating. He had a corner, had a shot off the bar, and Francis Coquelin just had a shot, just missed the post. So at the moment, with 6 minutes gone, it's Villarreal 0, Real Madrid 0.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Patrick. And a chance for Burnley. We've already seen 2 goals going at the Vitality. Josh Bailey, tell us about it.
Yes, Burnley are looking very, very dangerous when they have a little bit of space to run into on the Burnley attack, on their attack onto the Bournemouth defence. And once again, it was fantastic play from Burnley running into that space. It then came to the winger Zahawi. He then, from the left, cut onto his right foot, was given the chance to shoot, tried to bend it in to the right-hand post and just grazed the outside of the post as it went out for a Bournemouth goal kick. Bournemouth being dangerous here, however, both sides seem evenly matched. It's Bournemouth 1, Burnley 1, 21 minutes gone.
Well, thank you very much for that one. An equalising goal in Serie A in the game between Fiorentina and Sassuolo. Fiorentina were ahead through Saponara, but we've just seen a penalty netted by Sassuolo. And it was Domenico Berardi who, with 13 minutes gone in the second half, equalises for Sassuolo. 1-1 in that game. Fiorentina 1, Sassuolo 1 in Serie A. So that's where we're at the moment in that particular game. Let's quickly visit what happened in the games last night. In the FA Cup, Manchester United 3, Everton 1, the third round of the FA Cup kicking off. Marcus Rashford, the star, he scored a late penalty, and he was really the difference between the two sides. Alex Iwobi, the Nigerian international, went off injured in this game. More woe for Frank Lampard and Everton, who are currently down in the relegation zone in the Premier League table, out of the cup. They haven't won a trophy since 1995, and it's going to be another year before they can try that again, because they're not going to win anything this season. Anthony also on target, and that was a good win for Manchester United. 7 wins on the trot now for in-form Manchester United. So they are a team that are coasting with the right form at the right time. In La Liga in Spain, Elche 0, Celta Vigo 1. Elche stayed bottom, just 4 points. Looks like they're going down. Defender Bigas sent off late in the game for the bottom side. Big win for Celta, out of the bottom 3. Iago Aspas scoring the game's only goal after 5 minutes. Valencia 0, Cadiz 1. This was another game decided by a very early goal from Ruben Alcaraz after 9 minutes. Valencia down in 10th place, 6 points off of the top 6. It was a bit of a shock win for Cadiz. They climb out of the relegation zone. Look at the table in La Liga. Sevilla are 1 off the bottom. That's right, Sevilla. God, they've dominated in the Europa League in recent years, and now they're in a bit of a relegation battle. Sevilla. It's a little bit of a shock there in the Belgian Julep Pro. Standard Liège and Saint-Truden drew 1-1. Both sides stay in the European qualification places. It's 4 without a win now for Standard Liège, and they would have lost that one had it not been for Stiep Perica with a 92nd minute equaliser. In the Eredivisie in the Netherlands, FC 20 up to 4th with a 2-0 win against struggling Emmen. The veteran Ricky van Wolfswinkel amongst the goals in that game. Back to the here and now in the FA Cup. Millwall 0, Sheffield United 1. Daniel Jebison with a goal after 23 minutes at the New Den in an all-championship affair. Of course, Sheffield United currently just behind Burnley in that battle for promotion into the Premier League. Let's go around the ground, shall we, on our featured games. Let's head towards the Riverside. We've had 2 goals already. Jackson Cole, is it still a lively affair?
It certainly is. The cup tie has really settled down. Both sides playing some really nice football. And just seconds ago, Riley McGree, he missed a great chance to put Middlesbrough 2-1 up. It was a great save over the bar from Jason Steele. Chuba Akpom, who got Middlesbrough's equaliser, he was actually on loan at Brighton for a brief period during his days at Arsenal. He made 10 appearances for Brighton, didn't score a single goal. Now he's scored against them. But yeah, 23 minutes on the clock. It's Middlesbrough 1, Brighton 1.
Excellent. And, well, we've already heard about 1 goal at Blackpool. Nottingham Forest, how have they responded? Anu Burakuri come very close to scoring, haven't they?
They have. They just struck the post, in fact, through Emmanuel Dennis. He had the Blackpool keeper, Maxwell, completely beaten. Found a little bit of space in the left-hand side of the Forest box and just tried to curl into the postage stamp in the top right-hand corner. Beat the keeper, as I say, but couldn't get it inside the post, and the ball cannoned off the woodwork. So although Blackpool have found it quite easy to just lower the pace a little bit, you would expect at some point that Forest are going to get back in the game, and they very nearly did through that shot from Emmanuel Dennis, but it stays Blackpool 1, Forest 0.
Emmanuel Dennis, of course, a Nigerian international who's played 8 times for his country, scored just 1 goal, signed in the summer from Watford. Hasn't really got going with Nottingham Forest yet. Hit the post there. That would have only been his 2nd goal. Today is his 11th appearance for Forest. He's been a bit part player and heavily rumoured to be on his way out as soon as this transfer window in January. That remains to be seen. Let's continue to go around the grounds. Let's head up to the MKM Stadium. Richard Bond is watching Hull City against Fulham. Any chance of an opening goal in this one, Richard?
It's still 0-0 here at the moment, but it's been, like I said last time, Hull have been the better side. Fulham have been very poor so far. You know, in the first 26 minutes, they haven't even mustered a shot on target. So they clearly, in the creative parts, they're going to have to improve if they want to get to grips into this game. Just seeing Harvey Vale again getting picked up nice by one player who's impressing me at the moment in the centre of midfield for Hull is Ozan Tufan, the Turkish international. He's got about 60 caps for Turkey. He's a very experienced player, been around the block quite a lot there. He looks as if he's the one that could unlock something for Hull. As for Fulham, you look maybe later on into the game, if things stay the same, they might look at bringing on Tete in the second half to maybe add that little bit of creativity. But at the moment, it's 0-0 here between Hull City and Fulham.
Well, thank you very much for that, Richard Bond. Richard Bond's drawn a short straw this afternoon. Plenty of goals in all the games apart from that one. And, of course, still 0-0 at Villarreal against Real Madrid, although they are only, 12, 13 minutes into that game. Let's head to the Vitality Stadium. Josh Bailey, you've been treating us with an avalanche of goals. It seems to have died down a little bit now. Any rhythm in that game between those two teams?
It's a lot of back and forth at the moment, to be greatly honest with you, Barry. There's both it's almost like a chess match, really. Both sides are all tactical kind of game, trying to figure each other out. And then really the only reason we've got 2 goals in this game is the fact there's personal mistakes. I mean, nearly had another one. One of the Burnley defenders booted the ball trying to clear it. It hit the Bournemouth striker, Christie, ended up deflecting into the path of Solanke. But in the end, Solanke was offside, so Burnley got away with one there. So the only reason kind of this game isn't 0-0 is the fact the personal mistakes. Apart from that, both teams playing a really solid game, both teams looking sharp. I mean, there's a reason Burnley are top of the Championship, and there's a sort of reason that Bournemouth are kind of floating towards that relegation zone. But so far, half an hour gone, it's Bournemouth 1, Burnley 1.
There's been a chance for Brighton and Hove Albion at the Riverside against Middlesbrough. Jackson Cole, Brighton nearly ahead again.
Yeah, and it fell to their goal scorer, Pascal Gross. He had a free kick and it stung the hands of Zach Steffen, who's actually looked very good in goal. He had that absolute howler last season playing for Manchester City when he let Sadio Mane slide in to score that goal in the semi-finals. But Steffen, he's looked very good and assured in between the sticks today. There's a bit of a concern for Michael Carrick. Matt Crooks, who's been playing as a somewhat makeshift striker over the past few weeks, he's currently down receiving treatment. I didn't really see what the challenge was, but he scored 2 goals in their last match. Again, that was a 3-1 win against Birmingham, so that would be really bad if he was to come off. So yes, 27 minutes on the clock. It's Middlesbrough 1, Brighton 1.
Thank you, Jackson. And I can tell you that there has been a goal in one of the matches that we are featuring this afternoon in the FA Cup third round. And literally the second that we said goodbye just now to Jackson Cole, the ball hit the back of the net, and guess what? Brighton and Hove Albion are back in front. It's Adam Lallana with the goal on the half-hour mark, and we'll be straight back to Jackson to hear about that in just a couple of moments' time. Let's quickly delve into the La Liga, shall we? Estadio della Ceramica. Both me and Patrick Norat are struggling to say that one this afternoon. Any chance of a goal from you, Patrick?
Yeah, I just feel you came to me. Benzema just had a left foot shot, just went over the bar. But at the moment, both teams are playing quite well, keeping possession quite well, actually. And what's happening is that every time someone loses possession, there's a chance on the other side. So what they're doing is you play, we play. So it's quite a competitive game. It's not one team sitting back. But as always, Real Madrid dominating, and what Villarreal are doing is trying to see if they get a mistake and trying to get a goal. But at the moment, lots of fouls as well, lots of stop and start. So at the moment, with 15 gone, it's Villarreal 0, Real Madrid 0.
Thank you very much, Patrick. So Villarreal 0, Real Madrid 0. It's Blackpool 1, Nottingham Forest 0. Maybe a shock on the cards there. Andrew Brunacori has just told us that Emmanuel Dennis has hit the post. Hull City 0, Fulham 0, Middlesbrough 1, Brighton 2, Bournemouth 1, Burnley 1. And we'll be across to hear about that second goal for Brighton and Hove Albion in just a few moments' time. Turn our attentions back to last night's matches. And in the French Coupe de France, Châteauroux, who were finalists in 2014, are currently 14th in the third tier in the National League in France. They took on PSG, Paris Saint-Germain, 14 times winners. Bit of a mismatch, this one, you would have thought. Well, it wasn't quite as straightforward as that. Paris Saint-Germain sent mainly their second string of players. They won in the end, thanks to 2 late goals in the final 12 minutes by 3 goals to 1. Sergio Ramos is probably the most recognisable player to come on in that game late in the day. And since after he came on, they did get those 2 late goals to win by 3 goals to 1 and go through to the next round. Incidentally, the Coupe de France, the French Cup, if you like, is the only competition that Lionel Messi has played in that he hasn't won in his playing career. He's won the World Cup, the Copa America, you name it, he's won everything, hasn't he? But this is the one to complete the set. So it's still on for him. Obviously, he didn't play last night, but Lionel Messi could be trying to complete the set if PSG, who must be favourites for that competition, can go all the way and win it. Let's head back, shall we, to the Riverside, Jackson Cole, who can tell us about that second goal for Brighton and Hove Albion.
Yes, well, seconds after you last spoke to me, Brighton have retaken the lead, and it's Adam Lallana. The goal came from nothing, really. Brighton were just knocking the ball about, and then all of a sudden, Solly March cuts inside on the right, delivers a brilliant ball from the right with his left foot. It finds Mitoma, who gets on the end of the ball, which just bounces over Zach Steffen, and there was Adam Lallana pretty much on the goal line to nod it home. Easiest goal he'll score in his life. Middlesbrough 1, Brighton 2.
Let's recap on all the 3 o'clock kickoffs, shall we, in the FA Cup. Blackpool 1, Nottingham Forest 0, Boreham Wood 0, Accrington Stanley 1. It's 1-1 between Bournemouth and Burnley, as we just heard. Chesterfield 1, West Bromwich Albion 2. Goalless between Fleetwood and Queen's Park Rangers, and Hull against Fulham. It's goalless at Portman Road. Ipswich Town against Rotherham United. Middlesbrough 1, Brighton 2, as we just heard from Andrew Bonacori. Millwall losing at home to Sheffield United by a goal to 0. Sunderland's trip to Shrewsbury after half an hour remains goalless. That's where we are at the moment. There are late kickoffs today. Brentford against West Ham, all Premier League affair. That should be a good game, shouldn't it? All London affair as well. Brentford in great form at the moment. Coventry taking on non-league Wrexham. There's Grimsby against Burton, Luton against Wigan, and an all-championship affair. Sheffield Wednesday and Newcastle. That's a big game, isn't it? Two big clubs, although Sheffield Wednesday currently residing in League One, albeit that they're doing very well and could be in the Championship next season. And Liverpool against Wolves is the late evening kickoff, 9 o'clock West African time. So that's the FA Cup up to date. And let me quickly remind you that we will be handing back to Nigeria soon. And this is how you can interact. Don't forget to interact with us on social media here at Brila FM, at Brila FM 889 on Twitter, and on Facebook at 889 Brila FM.
You are listening to Football Live on Brila FM.
And a very good afternoon to you all. Premier League with all our reporters at every single game.
How about that?
He centred in with that gorgeous left foot of his.
Have you heard anything quite like this?
Absolutely not.
From London to Lagos.
It was a long ball over the top.
Well, it's gone by the form book.
Yeah, it's a superb performance from Arsenal, really.
Unbelievable.
Boom.
Big goal in the relegation scrap.
Wow.
Nigerian Frank Onyeka returns to the substitutes bench for Brentford.
That's why we stand out from the crowd.
If you're a Tottenham fan, you'll be jumping up and down.
Yeah, it was an absolute screamer. Fair play to Mikel Antonio.
Pick that one out.
It's been a pleasure having you with us.
And when's it all going to end?
You are listening to Football Live on Brila FM.
You are indeed listening to Football Live on Brila FM. On Twitter at Brila FM 889. On Facebook at 889 Brila FM. And of course on FM 88.9 FM on FM across Nigeria in Onitsha, Abuja and Lagos. 101.1 FM in Port Harcourt. Of course on the Brila app as well and online around the world. This is Football Live on Brila FM. We're into the last 10 minutes of all those featured FA Cup games. Not quite so advanced in our Liga game, La Liga game, I should say. Let's cross to Spain. Let's talk about Villarreal against Real Madrid for just a moment. Patrick Noret is watching this and a chance for Real Madrid.
Yes, because what's happening now, Real Madrid are dominating the ball a bit much better now, and they're using the flanks quite well, definitely on left-hand side. Vinicius Jr. went on the run, beat 4 players, came inside, beat 2 more players, went inside the box, and the ball got taken off his toe by the goalkeeper who cleared it. So at the moment, it's basically Real Madrid dominated possession. I don't think it'll be long before they score. So with 21 gone, it's Villarreal 0, Real Madrid 0.
Thank you very much for that, Patrick. So Villarreal 0-0 in that game. But there has been a goal in the one game that we're featuring that hasn't had a goal up until now. And it's gone to Fulham. Hull City 0, Fulham 1. We'll be across to the MKM Stadium with Richard Bond to tell us all about that one. Levin Kazawa, who has come into the side, the left-sided fullback. He picked up an injury, played his debut, I think it was against Newcastle, when he went off injured in the first half. Remember, Fulham reduced to 10 men in that game. He went off injured. He hasn't played since. He was on the bench in the win midweek against Leicester. He's playing today, and he's popped forward and scored the opening goal. Hull City 0, Fulham 1. And as I say, Richard Bond will tell us all about that one in just a few moments' time. But of our 4 games that we're featuring, it's 1-1 between Bournemouth and Burnley, so level between Championship and Premier League in that. Middlesbrough of the Championship 1, Premier League Brighton 2. It's Premier League leading Championship at Hull, as we just heard, Hull City 0, Fulham 1. And it's Championship leading Premier League at Bloomfield Road, Blackpool 1, Nottingham Forest 0. So that's where we are at the moment. And but don't worry, because it won't be very long before we can tell you about this. That's right, another goal, and it's gone to Burnley. Bournemouth 1, Burnley 2. In 2 of our featured matches now, it's Championship up against the Premier League. So Championship taking the lead for the second time this afternoon. Bournemouth 1, Burnley 2. Josh Bailey will join us very shortly to tell us about that goal. I can tell you it was Anas Zaroury that scored the second goal for Burnley 6 minutes before half time. And it's now Chesterfield 2, West Bromwich Albion 2. Sounds like a cracking cup tie up at the Technique Stadium. Armando Dubra has scored in the 36th minute to bring the non-leaguers Chesterfield. It doesn't seem right saying non-leaguers Chesterfield, having nearly reached the FA Cup final just 30 years ago. But they are back level 2-2 in that game. Let's go down to the Vitality Stadium, down on the south coast. I bet the wind is blowing a gale down there, but the goals are blowing in from the coast. It's another goal, and Burnley ahead, Josh Bailey.
Yes, Burnley ahead, and it's another Bournemouth mistake which gifts it to them. It's Zaroury who wins it back just outside the Bournemouth area, then plays it into Ashley Barnes, who plays it forward, and then he feeds it to Brown, who's then got a one-on-one. Instead, he wasn't selfish. He then squared it out to Zaroury, and then Zaroury finished brilliantly into an empty net. However, there is going to be a VAR check, because maybe in Brownhill's selflessness, he may have inadvertently stopped this Burnley goal, because it may have been that Zaroury was in front of Brownhill when he squared it to him from just outside the 6-yard box. Barry, I will go back to you on this one, whether it's given or whether it's not.
Tell you what, Josh, we'll be back to you in just a second. Let's, in the meantime, cross and hear about that goal for Fulham. Richard Bond, Hull City 0, Fulham 1.
Yes, it's the Premier League side who've taken the lead. It's Hull City 0, Fulham 1. And like you said, it's Leon Kurzawa who's got the goal. It was a nice little piece of play from Fulham, just interchanged some passing in the midfield, sprayed out wide to the right-hand side to, it was, I think, Andres Pereira, who started to get more of the ball recently. His shot, curling left foot effort, was palmed away by the home keeper, Matt Ingram, only to Kurzawa, who was coming in to follow the ball up, tapping the ball into the net, off the post and in. Fulham ahead. Would you say deserved? Maybe not, but at the same time, they've taken the lead in this one. No one will want a replay from this today, with the fixture pilot to come. Hull City 0, Fulham 1, but still plenty of time to go for changes in this one.
Thank you very much for that one, Richard. Let's head straight back to the Vitality. Was it a goal? Was it not a goal? How did VAR conclude? Bournemouth against Burnley. Josh Bailey.
Confirmed that it is a goal for Burnley and Zaroury, and that means Burnley lead 2-1 in this fixture. That goal sums up everything that is so brilliant about Vincent Kompany, his new management style that has taken over Burnley by storm, pressing, passing. It completed the whole list. It's wet and windy down here at Bournemouth. It's a miserable day, however, it's not going to dampen Burnley's spirits. 5 minutes to go here to half-time. Bournemouth 1, Burnley 2. A shock on our hands here on the South Coast.
Thanks very much for that, Josh. Couple of FA Cup goals to tell you about. It's now Millwall 0, Sheffield United 2. A goal there from Omar Bogle to give the Blades a 2-0 cushion in that game. And Queen's Park Rangers are leading away at Fleetwood Town by 1-0. Sam Field with a goal for the Championship side away at League One opposition. So that's where we stand in that. But actually, I correct that because it's now 1-1 in that game up at the Highbury Stadium. Aristota and Ciala, who's pretty good in front of goal, has gone and equalised for Fleetwood. Fleetwood 1, Queen's Park Rangers 1 in the FA Cup. So plenty of goals to tell you about in the first half. The lunchtime kickoffs, we were watching them and the goals as they went in, and they were very slow. It was a very laboured lunchtime spectacle. The goals few and far between. Spurs laboured to a 1-0 win against Portsmouth. Harry Kane scoring the all-important goal in that game. Crystal Palace lost the lead and then lost 2-1 at home to bottom of the table Premier League side Southampton in an all Premier League encounter. Well, do you know what? There's been another goal in the game between Bournemouth and Burnley. I can tell you it's gone. It's gone to Burnley. It's another goal for Burnley. They're now 3-1 up. We'll be across to Josh Bailey, who can tell us all about that one in just a moment. Anis Zaroury has got the goal to make it 3-1 to Burnley. In fact, we can go across to Josh Bailey, who can tell us all about it.
Burnley, who have never won a game in their last 10 matches against Premier League opponents when playing outside the top flight in the FA Cup, well, they're really close to doing it now, and it's thanks to 2 goals by Anas Sarori. It's a fantastic finish. He managed to break into the box from the left-hand side. Fantastic feet, fantastic dribbling. He then took it through the legs of Billing, got a little bit of luck as it deflected off Billing's legs and back into the feet of Sarori. He took one touch and finished beautifully into the bottom right-hand corner. It was a tight angle, but that did not faze him one bit. It's all fallen apart here for Bournemouth coming into half-time. And Burnley, they're in absolute wonderland. It's Bournemouth 1, Burnley 3, 43 minutes gone.
It's raining goals down on the south coast. So Burnley winning 3-1 at Bournemouth. Middlesbrough 1, Brighton 2, Hull 0, Fulham 1. 3 away wins on the cards maybe there. But Blackpool have bucked the trend. They lead Nottingham Forest still by a goal to nil. Let's cross to Spain. Villarreal against Real Madrid. Villarreal, Patrick Noret, have just had a really good chance.
Yeah, they did. They're playing on a breakaway. The ball went on the right-hand side. And what happened, Alex Bina collected a wonderful pass and took a shot just over the bar. So it's you play, we play. Although, like I said to you earlier, that Real Madrid are dominating. But Villarreal are taking their time to come forward. So they're going to might catch them on the break. We'll have to wait and see. With 30 minutes gone, it's Villarreal 0, Real Madrid 0.
Thank you very much for that, Patrick. Boris Lambert has scored just before half-time in the game in the Belgian Jupiler Pro League. Jopen are leading Charleroi by a goal to nil in that game. Do you know what? I've got a list of games that are being played here that are not featuring that kicked off around about the 4 o'clock mark West African time, and most of them are 0-0. Jopen's goal there has just broken the duck. Lyon 0, Metz 0, Celtic 0, Kilmarnock 0. Celtic just had a goal disallowed. RKC Waalwijk 0, Heerenveen 0 in the Netherlands as well. So those games are not featured for a reason. They're not bringing us goals. We've had plenty of goals. There's been a goal at Portman Road. Cameron Humphreys has scored for League One high flyers Ipswich, who lead Rotherham United at the Championship by a goal to nil in the FA Cup third round. So a good result on the cards maybe there for Ipswich Town, although their priority will be getting back into the Championship this season. Let's cross to Andrew Bonacori. Blackpool against Nottingham Forest. Blackpool, last time we heard, 1 goal to the good. Forest had hit the post. Forest continued their good work since falling behind.
It's been an interesting last 10 or so minutes here, Barry. There was an incident about 10 minutes ago, a little bit of argy-bargy as a couple of players squared up to each other. It was Blackpool's Thornley who sent Surridge into the advertising hoardings, and the ref had to separate a few players. But although that simmered down fairly quickly, that incident really marked the end of Blackpool's dominance. And since then, it's been Forest who just look like they're starting to turn the tide a little bit. No real clear-cut chances, although we did have Steve Cook being inches away from connecting with a free kick. But it's still Blackpool 1, Nottingham Forest 0. But really looking forward to the second half to see how Nottingham Forest are going to turn this round. It's Blackpool 1, Nottingham Forest 0.
Celtic have taken the lead. Just as I said, they were 0-0 against Kilmarnock. They did have a goal disallowed, but right on the stroke of half-time, Celtic have taken the lead in the Scottish Premiership at Celtic Park, leading that one by a goal to nil against Kilmarnock. Let's go to Hull City against Fulham, with a half-time whistle has gone at the MKM Stadium, and it's advantage Fulham at half-time. Richard Bond.
Yes, it's Hull City 0, Fulham 1 here at the MKM Stadium, and a goal from Fulham 8 minutes before half-time from French player Lavin Kurzawa, who's on loan from Paris Saint-Germain. His goal, scoring up after following up from Harry Wilson's shot, curling into the left top corner it was, but Ingram managed to pull up quite a good save, but only parrying the ball to the feet of the Frenchman following up. It's been quite a quiet game as such, with not many chances. Fulham have come into the game as the half went on. For Hull, they did have a good opportunity early in the match where they were presented with a chance for Harvey Vale, who was, after Bobby Decordova Reid had accidentally played him in. His shot went wide. Other than that, not much to note for. Both sides lacking that creative spark, but Fulham with the goal to the good at the half-time. Hull 0, Fulham 1 half-time.
Jackson Cole at the Riverside, Middlesbrough against Brighton. I gather the half-time whistle has gone there too.
It certainly has, Barry. It's Middlesbrough 1, Brighton 2. An FA Cup tie that hasn't been short of quality and excitement, and the Premier League side are edging it at the moment. They took the lead on 8 minutes as Pascal Gross slotted home a loose ball after Solly March's earlier effort was kept out by Zach Steffen. Then very much against the run of play, Michael Carrick's side were level from star forward Chuba Akpom, who headed the delicious cross from the left just beyond the reach of Brighton goalkeeper Jason Steele, the player who's eligible for Nigeria, bagging his 14th of what's been a very productive season so far. Both sides exchanged chances, with Steele doing well to tip Australia international Riley McGree's powerful shot over the bar, while Steffen punched away a stinging free kick from Gross. And just before the half-hour mark, Brighton retook the lead as Adam Lallana chested the ball into the net after Mitoma got on the end of a lovely cross from March. Since coming to the Premier League in 2017, Brighton have lost just one of their 9 FA Cup ties against opponents from a lower division. It's looking good to be 1-10 as at half-time. It's Middlesbrough 1, Brighton 2.
Celtic 1, Kilmarnock 0, as I mentioned a few moments ago. Jota with the goal for the Premiership leaders in Scotland. Celtic ahead there and looking like they're going to open the gap. Rangers don't play until tomorrow. In France, it's Coupe de France, one of the ties of the round. Lyon against Metz. It's got its first goal. It's taken an hour for Bradley Barcella to score for Lyon. Lyon 1, Metz 0. Just waiting for the half-time whistle to blow in the final of our matches that we are covering in the FA Cup. And I do understand that the half-time whistle has literally just blown. Josh Bailey, Bournemouth against Burnley. Tell us all about it.
Yes, what a fantastic FA Cup tie we have here at the Vitality Stadium that has seen 4 goals in this game, 3 going to Burnley and 1 going to Bournemouth. Bournemouth, even though they might be 3-1 down at home, they had a huge chance just before the half-time whistle went. It was Ryan Christie from a corner routine which ended up in pinball in the Burnley penalty area, and then Ryan Christie managed to open up a little bit of space to get a shot off, but it was fantastically saved by Peacock Farrell. As to the game in itself, well, Burnley took the lead after a Bournemouth mistake, which then meant it was a brilliant capitalisation from one of the Burnley wingers. Then after that, Bournemouth, they then equalised themselves. It was Christie with the goal after a Burnley mistake, meaning he was able to pounce on it from 12 yards out and score into an empty net. Then there was a bit of chess moving in the game, a tactical battle, both sides trying to see themselves out, and then Bournemouth capitulated at the end of the half. It was 2 goals by Zahouri at the end, 1 brilliantly well-worked goal, a fantastic finish in the bottom right-hand corner, and 1 when it was gifted by Bournemouth. This has been a fantastic half from Vincent Kompany's men, and showing why they are one of the best teams in England right now. Half-time here, it's Bournemouth 1, Burnley 3.
Thank you very much, Josh. Just quickly recap on those matches that we are featuring. Villarreal 0, Real Madrid 0, half-time approaching in that game. Blackpool 1, Forest 0, maybe a shock on the cards there at Bloomfield Road. Hull City 0, Fulham 1, Middlesbrough 1, Brighton 2, and Bournemouth 1, Burnley 3. Another shock maybe on the cards right there. Now it's time to hand back to Femi in Nigeria and Brila FM for a social media update. Femi, back to you.
You are listening to Football Live on Brila FM with Barry Swain. You are listening to Football Live on Brila FM with Barry Swain.
Yes, thank you very much, Femi and the team back in the HQ of Brila FM. And, well, very entertaining first half. I'm hoping that the second half will be similar. Still first half, however, in one of our games, Villarreal against Real Madrid. Watching at the Estadio della Ceramica is Patrick Norat. Half-time approaching. Any sign of a goal yet?
No, Chid. You know, when I said to you earlier that I thought that Real Madrid was going to score on the counter, it hasn't worked out that way. Both sides in possession, 53% to Villarreal and 47% to Real Madrid. Goal attempts, 7, 4 to Real Madrid. Shots on target, shots on goal, I would say 1 to Real Madrid. And shots off target, you've got about 5 for Villarreal and 1 for Real Madrid. So at the moment, I would say 50-50. I can't see where goals are going to come from. But what both sides are doing, they're going down the wings. For some reason, they're trying to get down behind their right back and left back, getting crosses in the box. And I think for Real Madrid, it's more about getting down the right-hand side and the left-hand side, so Benzema in the middle. And for Villarreal, they sometimes go for the middle, but it seems to me they're trying to get behind as well, and both cancelling each other out. So with 44 gone, it's still Villarreal 0, Real Madrid 0.
Thank you very much for that, Patrick. Now, last night, Manchester United, an excellent 3-1 win at home to Everton. Again, Marcus Rashford was the hero for United. 7 wins out of 7. Here is their manager, Erik ten Hag.
Great performance. Staying in the game, but I think it was from the first minute in the game. As a team, we dealt good with the setback, and I think Marcus was the one who goes in front and showed the convincement, showed the belief, good movement, good runs behind, taking players on, and I think he was 90 minutes a threat for the defending part of Everton.
That was Erik ten Hag. They're in splendid form, aren't they, Manchester United, at the moment. And, well, in the game in the Primeira Liga in Portugal, there's a goal after 28 minutes. Ode de Barg has scored for Aruca, who lead Estoril by 1-0. 15th against 12th there at the Stadion Kervig. And so Fiorentina against Sassuolo in Serie A is just coming to a climax, and my goodness me, what a climax it is too. Minute into injury time at the end of the second half, a penalty to Fiorentina, and Nicolas Gonzalez has stepped up and scored in the 91st minute of that game at the Estadio Artemio Franchi, and Fiorentina, with an outside chance of climbing up towards the European qualification places, have taken the lead. Sassuolo down towards the bottom, and there's a little bit of breathing space between them and Sampdoria down in the first of the relegation places. So that's where we're at the moment. In France, Lens have finally made the breakthrough. Ivory Coast international Seko Fofana with the goal against lower league Linas Montieri. So Montieri 0, Lens 1 is a half time in that half time. Also in Spain, we just heard from Patrick Norat, 0-0 between Villarreal and Real Madrid. But that is our only featured game that lacks a goal. Bournemouth 1, Burnley 3 at half-time. Middlesbrough 1, Brighton 2. Hull City 0, Fulham 1. And Blackpool 1, Nottingham Forest 0. All in the FA Cup third round. In the early kickoffs today, wins for Preston against Huddersfield. Huddersfield were winning in that game, but it's Preston that went through 3-1. Southampton came from behind as well to win against Palace. Tottenham and Reading and Leicester City, thanks to a goal from Kelechi Iheanacho. He's first in 16 in the victory at Priestfield against the bottom side in League 2, Gillingham. So victory for Leicester City, the FA Cup winners in 2020. They're through to the fourth round, which incidentally is going to be drawn on Monday. We've got some late kickoffs as well in the FA Cup today, including Brentford against West Ham United and Liverpool against Wolves. Looking into the major leagues around Europe, some great games tonight in the Serie A. Juventus against Udinese. Isaac's success yet to score this season might be involved. Udinese are currently 8th. Juventus in great form at the moment are 3rd. So that should be a good game and perhaps a poignant evening as well, given the passing yesterday, the sad news of Gianluca Vialli passing away at the age of just 58. In Portugal, Porto look to close the gap on Sporting and Benfica above them. They're in action away at Casa Pia, who are currently 5th in the table. And that should be a very interesting game. 3 late games as well in the Dutch Eredivisie tonight, including PSV Eindhoven against Sparta Rotterdam. Eindhoven currently 3rd, PSV are yet to draw in 14 league games. They're only 3 points behind the current leaders, Feyenoord. Fortuna Sittard against Go Ahead Eagles is another match, very much a mid-table battle. That one 12th against 11. AZ Alkmaar against Vitesse at the AFAS Stadium, 4th against 13th. AZ, a point outside the Champions League, places Vitesse starting to get their act together following a pretty poor start by their standards. A couple of goals to tell you about in the French Coupe de France. We're keeping a close eye on Lens. They've taken the time in finally taking the lead away at lower league side Linas Monterrey. Well, they're now 2-0 up thanks to a goal from Florian Sokocha to make it 2-0 in that game. And Lyon 2, Metz 1. The goal's flying in this game. It was 0-0 up until the hour mark. Then Jallo equalising for Metz, but with 13 minutes to go. Castello Lukaba has scored a second for the home side, and Lyon are leading in that game, which I have dubbed the tie of the round. Fiorentina have beaten Sassuolo by 1-0. Our featured games in the FA Cup are just getting underway. Fali Kande, in fact, has been credited with that second goal for Lyon. 2-1 up against Metz. Half-time, as I mentioned earlier, Villarreal 0, Real Madrid 0. We will delve back into the FA Cup in just a few minutes' time. And, well, the second halves are just starting to get underway and should be a very interesting second half.
You are listening to Football Live on Brila FM.
Jerez 0, Marseille 2, despite playing most of this game down to 10 men after Elik Bays sending off. It's now 2-0 to Marseille. Amadou Bamba Dieng has scored a second. The 10 men are making light work of Jerez. It's now 2-0 in that game. No shocks in the French Cup, in the Coupe de France today. 1 or 2 shocks unfolding in the games involving the Premier League and Championship clubs that we're featuring. One game that really is catching the eye at the moment, and it could be shock of the round, is Chesterfield. Non-league Chesterfield are leading West Bromwich Albion by 3-2 at the Technique Stadium. So Chesterfield ahead for the first time in that game. What a cup tie that's turning out to be. Chesterfield 3, West Bromwich Albion 2. Let's start to go around the ground, shall we, in the FA Cup. The early stages of the second halves of our 4 feature matches. Let's head back, shall we, first of all to Josh Bailey, who's at Bournemouth against Burnley. He's had more than his fair share of goals in the first half. The early indications that the trend is going to continue in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, and not many chances so far early in this second half. Again, both teams very happy to just take what's given to them. But, it's been a brilliant game of football. It epitomises what the FA Cup is all about. And actually, maybe we shouldn't be too surprised at the fact that Burnley have won their last 3 away games at Bournemouth. That time it was all in the Premier League, and actually their only previous away FA Cup game against them ended 1-1 in January 1966. But they love visiting this ground, and when they do visit this ground, they get a win. So maybe we shouldn't be surprised that they're winning 3-1, but they've played absolutely brilliant today. Bournemouth, they've made 3 changes to their team so far. They've brought on Keith Moore for Rothwell, they brought on Stacey for Zamora, and they've also brought on Kelly for Sanaisi. So that's pretty much now their Premier League team that is on the pitch. So let's see if it changes fortunes for Bournemouth in this second half. Couple of minutes gone here. It is Bournemouth 1, Burnley 3.
Rotherham United of the Championship have equalised away at Ipswich Town of League 1. Connor Washington with a penalty 2 minutes into the second half, and it's 1-1 at Portman Road. Let's head off to Middlesbrough against Brighton and Hove Albion. Jackson Cole, 3 goals for you in the first half at the Riverside. You're hoping for more of the same, I'm sure, in the second half.
Yeah, I certainly am, Barry. It's still Middlesbrough 1, Brighton 2. There was a chance for Solly March just a few moments ago, right at the start of the second half. There's a crossing from the left, but his header was straight at Zach Steffen, but he still did well, the former Manchester City goalkeeper. At half-time, Roberto De Zerbi, he made a change. Alexis McAllister, World Cup winner Alexis McAllister, that is, of course. He's come on for Adam Lallana. So a bit of a strange one, considering Lallana scored Brighton's second goal, but of course he's not got the best track record when it comes to injuries. So, well, we don't know for sure why that decision was made, but let's hope it's nothing too severe for the former Liverpool man. But yeah, about 51 minutes on the clock, and it's still Middlesbrough 1, Brighton 2.
Well, thank you very much for that, Jackson Cole. We had plenty of goals in the first half, and guess what? We're not about to stop anytime soon. Another goal in that game for Josh Bailey down on the south coast at the Vitality Stadium. And I can tell you that Bournemouth have pulled another goal back. It's now Bournemouth 2, Burnley 3, and we'll be across to Josh in just a few moments' time to hear about that goal. That game is just riddled with goals, isn't it? 49 minutes gone, 5 goals already. It sounded like a proper good cup tie, that Bournemouth against Burnley, 3-2 to Burnley. And Josh will tell us all about that one in just a couple of moments' time. We'll head back there as soon as we've touched base with Hull City and Fulham. Richard Bond is watching at the MKM Stadium. The Premier League side ahead at half-time. Anything to tell us early in the second half, Richard?
Well, it's more the same so far this second half as such. You know, Hull trying to get into the game, trying to fashion a few opportunities. They're strong in the challenge, and but without really creating anything decent of note. Fulham, as such, look quite happy on their lead at the moment now. Goal to the good, and it's a case of I think Hull probably may have to look to the bench, maybe bring on the Stupian sooner rather than later if they want to get back into this one. Fulham, just holding on at the moment now to their 1-goal lead. I think another goal probably would be enough on the day this afternoon. So it's Hull City 0, Fulham 1.
Thank you very much for that, Richard. Back to Josh Bailey at the Vitality Stadium. Another goal for you, Josh.
Yes, Burnley thought in the second half they'd have a little bit of breathing room, but Bournemouth have done exactly what they needed to do in the opening minutes, and that's find a goal straight away. And it was the 3 men involved with this goal, and 2 of them, well, they were the substitutes. It was Stacey who cut in from the right onto the left. He linked up with Keith Moore. A nice little 1-2 with him on the edge of the Burnley box, and then Stacey picked out Solanke through the middle, ran off the shoulder of his defender. His initial shot was saved, a brilliant save by Peacock Farrell, making himself big. Solanke, though, he got the bobble. It went up into the air. No one was around him. He headed in from about 3 yards out. That means now Bournemouth, they're way back into this game in a wet and windy south coast. It's Bournemouth 2, Burnley 3, 50 minutes gone.
Tomorrow afternoon in the FA Cup third round, it's tie of the round. Manchester City against Chelsea, and so Football Live has adjusted its start time to the later time of 5:20 in the afternoon. Join Chris Baldwin at the Etihad Stadium. It's Manchester City against Chelsea, plus Aston Villa against League 2 high flyers Stevenage. Will there be a shock at Villa Park in that tie? Sampdoria Napoli is also on our radar. That's tomorrow afternoon with Chris Baldwin on Football Live on Brila FM from 5:20 in the afternoon. Wow, what a game that's going to be tomorrow afternoon. Manchester City against Chelsea, and of course Aston Villa against Stevenage. We'll hear from the Stevenage manager, the larger-than-life Steve Evans, a little bit later on in the show. We might be, if we can find time and the goals dry up a little bit for us in a quiet period of the second half, we might actually hear from Graham Potter, the Chelsea manager, on their injuries as well. St Mirren 1, Heart of Midlothian 1, an equaliser for St Mirren. Robert Snodgrass, remember him? He's just scored in that game. So we just heard Dominic Solanke has pulled another goal back for Bournemouth, 3-2 in that game. The one game that we haven't visited in the second half, Blackpool against Nottingham Forest at Bloomfield Road. Just the one goal for Andrew Bonacore in the first half. Forest did hit the post through Emmanuel Dennis. How's the early stages of the second half shaped up, Andrew?
Well, Forest is certainly trying to take the game to the Seasiders and get back into this cup tie. Emmanuel Dennis continuing to find space in the Blackpool box, and he tried another curling shot in the opening minute of the second half. Blackpool would definitely need to cut off that particular line of attack. It's going to be interesting to see how Blackpool manage the second half. Will they try to get even more from the game, or will they retreat to try and protect the lead that they've got and go through after heroic rearguard action? Forest's attacking thrust might have to dictate that. Sam Surridge has just gone close, so it might be a sufferfest for the Blackpool fans. Time will tell, but at the moment it's Blackpool 1, Nottingham Forest 0.
Thank you very much for that update there, Andrew Bonacore at Blackpool against Nottingham Forest. Championship leading against Premier League in 2 of our 4 featured games, which are all Premier League against Championship this afternoon. We'll also be heading back to Spain for the early stages of the second half. A quick update from Patrick Nora in a little while when they get underway at the Estadio de la Ceramica. And we're looking forward to that. Kayugi Furuhashi has scored 6 minutes into the second half. Celtic look like they're on their way to another 3 points. They're 2-0 up against Kilmarnock in the Scottish Premiership. The leaders ahead in that game. Yopen 1, Charleroi 1, an equaliser for Charleroi from the striker Ken Nkuba has levelled things off in that game. So 1-1 between those two in the Belgian Jupiler Pro League. A chance for Nottingham Forest, Andrew Bonacore, to level things off at Bloomfield Road.
Oh, so close for Forest, Barry. A wonderful attack down the left-hand side from Harrison. He squared it and found Lewis O'Brien just about 10, 12 yards outside, inside the penalty box, and he just couldn't keep his shot under control. He tried to side-foot it in, but you can tell from the second it left his foot, it was just skewing away, and again, just wide of that right-hand post. But Forest, certainly the attacking team. Blackpool have had a couple of counter-attacks, but it's not quite all Forest, but you can see that Premier League quality just starting to shine. I think this might be a tough second half for Blackpool, but remember, it's Blackpool 1, still Nottingham Forest 0.
Do you remember that chap called Alexis McAllister? I do believe he won some sort of football trophy a couple of weeks ago. That World Cup, was it, for Argentina? Well, he's flown back to England and he's only gone and scored a goal. It's now Middlesbrough 1, Brighton and Hove Albion 3. We'll be across to the Riverside with Jackson Cole to tell us all about that one in a short moment or two. First of all, Bournemouth against Burnley. The chances just keep on coming, don't they, Josh Bailey?
Yes, and they keep coming for one man in a Burnley shirt, and that's Zarawi. He's been phenomenal today. Again, he gets into the left-hand side. He's on the left-hand side of the 12-yard box. He then sends Billing all the way back into the stand, slides in, cuts back onto the right foot, tried to go to the near-hand post of the goalkeeper's goal. However, it was a brilliant save, and it means the stalls remain. Bournemouth 2, Burnley 3, 60 minutes go.
Thank you very much. Let's quickly go over to Andrew Bonacore at Bloomfield Road. A really big chance for Emmanuel Dennis.
Massive chance for the Nigerian striker. The ball was played in by Toffolo, and Dennis managed to find space again. This time he looked up, he only had the keeper to beat, but the keeper came out and smothered the shot. Really should have scored it. It's Forest well on top, but it's still Blackpool 1, Nottingham Forest 0.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. The first half in Spain was 0-0 between Villarreal and Real Madrid. They're just about underway in the second half, and guess what? He's waited all first half for a goal. Nothing came along. But let's cross to the Estadio della Ceramica. Patrick Noret, finally, we have a goal.
Yes, I know. It's just started, right? And what happened was the ball on the left-hand side, and I think it's Chiduzi. I can't make it up, but I have to confirm it later for you. It was the first attack. It was the first attack they've had. So it's basically Villarreal 1, Real Madrid 0. We have a game on our hands.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that, Patrick. So an early goal in the second half in that game. Real Madrid trailing to Villarreal 1-0. That would hand the initiative back to Barcelona. We will cross in a few moments' time to Jackson Cole to hear about that McAllister goal for Brighton. In the meantime, in fact, I'll tell you what, let's go to Jackson Cole right now. He can tell us all about the goal, and it looks like Brighton are heading into round 4, doesn't it, Jackson?
Certainly does, Barry, and it's Alexis McAllister who scored Brighton's third goal. You just mentioned how he won a World Cup. It was a world-class finish. It was a left-footed cross fired in from the left from a Brighton player. Couldn't make out who it was. And then McAllister showed incredible ingenuity, just to backheel it into the net beyond Zach Steffen in the Middlesbrough goal. Absolutely stunning finish by McAllister, who was actually given a crunching tackle by Hayden Hackney. They clearly don't care for Argentina's World Cup success in Teesside, but McAllister, he's dusted himself off and showed that World Cup class to all but certainly put Brighton into that FA Cup fourth round. It's Middlesbrough 1, Brighton 3.
Should we head back to the south coast again? That goal machine of ours, Josh Bailey's only gone and got another goal. Bournemouth against Burnley. But which way's it gone, Josh?
There's a reason why Burnley have scored 52 goals in the Championship this year, and they score their 4th goal of the afternoon on the south coast against Bournemouth. However, Bournemouth, they're their worst enemy yet again, giving it away to Ashley Barnes, who picks up a little pocket of space just outside the 12-yard box. He then floated it in past the Bournemouth defence, and then it goes out to Benson, and Benson finishes brilliantly into the top left-hand corner from 12 yards out. It initially looked as if, I think it was number 5 in the end. It was, I want to say it was, might have been Steffens. Yeah, it was Steffens in the end who saw the ball come across him, and he looked like he thought there was no Burnley player behind him. So he left the ball, and then Benson, he just pounced on it after Steffens realising that he made an awful mistake. That means the scores are now Bournemouth 2, Burnley 4. However, I wouldn't be too sure that the goals are just done yet in this game. Half an hour to go here.
Well, thanks, Josh. Yeah, keep them coming. And let's go to Villarreal against Real Madrid. The first half wasn't all that. We've had a goal already, and Real Madrid have responded, haven't they, Patrick Noret?
Yeah, it seemed to have woke them up, actually. They actually worked the ball right away to the edge of the box. That man against Vinicius Jr. got hold of it, got the ball inside the box, and on a swivel on his left-hand side, which was Benzema, just past the post. So now we've got a game on there going at it. Villarreal are not sitting back. They're not trying to get the second goal, and while Real Madrid is trying to get that equaliser. With 50 gone, it's Villarreal 1, Real Madrid 0.
Never a dull moment this afternoon, is there? Another goal in the game between Blackpool and Nottingham Forest, and it's now Blackpool 2, Nottingham Forest 0. Now, most people, neutrals or maybe even Forest fans, will be saying, it doesn't matter. We need to concentrate on staying in the Premier League. That as may be, no one will ever begrudge an FA Cup run. It's Blackpool 2, Nottingham Forest 0. We'll be across with Andrew Bunacore in just a few moments' time to hear about that. Tomorrow, League 2 high flyers Stevenage will be looking to try and cause an upset. They travel to Aston Villa at Villa Park. They're taking a big following with them. Talking of big, their big life-size manager, larger than life, I should say, Steve Evans, has been round. He's been there, seen it, done it. He's a character, is Steve Evans. And here's what he has to say ahead of the trip to Aston Villa.
Also got the small task of Aston Villa coming up as
well. That's easy. That's easy. I watched part when they beat Spurs yesterday, and I thought, why did Emery come in? Why does he come in? I'm looking forward to meeting Steven Gerrard. Apart from Rangers, he's a hero of mine. But I'm thinking, he comes in and listen, I know John McGinn. It'll be a fantastic experience, but it can be a scary experience. I've been at Villa Park in charge of teams. The whole end and the rest of it make some great noise, but we're taking a good support, big support for us. And you know what? We want to go there, but we don't want to go there on a day out. That doesn't consider day out Villa Park. I'd rather be here in a league game. But we are there, and we just want to make sure we're competitive. We understand that it's a long shot, but it's a free shot. And I read Neil's words, so they had a free shot here today, and we've had to deal with it. We get a free shot next week at Villa Park. Kick off 4:30. I'll be on the bench.
Well done, Steve.
Thank you.
Kick-off 5:30 tomorrow afternoon, Nigerian time. And yes, Steve Evans, he will be on the bench, on the visiting bench for Stevenage. Aston Villa against Stevenage is one of our featured games tomorrow afternoon. Another one of our featured games this afternoon is Blackpool against Nottingham Forest. Told you a couple of minutes ago that there was a second goal for Blackpool. Let's cross to Bloomfield Road and hear all about it with Andrew Monokore.
Well, the shock is on, Barry. It's an awful goal from Forest's perspective to concede. Jerry Yates down the Blackpool left picked up an awful back pass from Nico Williams. I really don't even think it was an attempt to pass it back to the keeper. I think he assumed that Steve Cook was ready to pick up the ball, but he turned round. Jerry Yates picked the ball up. He ran into the Forest box, squared it to Poveda, who took all the time he needed to calmly slot it past Wayne Hennessy, and the shock is on. It's Blackpool 2 now, Nottingham Forest 0.
Well, thank you very much. He's got a history of Ian Carlo Poveda Ocampo to spell it out exactly. He's a London-born player, and his former clubs as a youth: Chelsea, Arsenal, Barcelona, Manchester City, and Brentford. He's done the rounds as a youth player. Hasn't really kicked in as a professional yet. Didn't managed to break through at Manchester City. Had a few appearances for Leeds a couple of years ago. England under-20 international, and he's gone and scored for Blackpool this afternoon. Big goal on a big stage. Over to Hull City against Fulham now. Richard Bond, big chance for Fulham.
Yes, it's a big chance for Fulham, and they get a really good opportunity to double their lead, and it's the best bit of play we've had in this second half. It's Bobby Decordova-Reid who it fell for. It's a cross from Tom Kearney on the left-hand side. Really good whipped cross in, showing his quality, a bit of Premier League quality. The ex-Hull City player, of course. Put the ball into the box. There's Decordova-Reid beating his marker. His header flashing across goal, but just going wide. Fulham so close to that second goal. Not quite there, though. It's still Fulham, Hull City 0, Fulham 1. We got one more change to note actually before we go. Aaron Conley's coming on for Hull now, so they're pushing in for a slight change formation here. So again, it's Fulham 0, Hull City 0, Fulham 1.
You are listening to Football Live on Brila FM.
You are indeed. Well, we just heard about a potential shock at Blackpool. Blackpool 2-0 up on Nottingham Forest. There could be a shock in the game at Highbury, up the road from Blackpool. Literally, jump on the tram, sit on it for about 15 minutes. Lovely little journey up the coast to Fleetwood. And Fleetwood 2, Queen's Park Rangers 1. They're holding out for Promise, are Fleetwood, and they've gone and got it midway through the second half. Promise Omachere has scored for them. So Fleetwood up against championship opposition in Queen's Park Rangers this afternoon. Could be a shock on the cards there. Let's cross to Spain. Estadio de la Ceramica, Patrick Noret. Another chance for Villarreal. They're not sitting on the laurels, are they?
No, they're not. What Real Madrid are doing, they're coming forward and ploughing forward, trying to get that equaliser. And Villarreal just sitting deep. What happened? They lost the ball. Parade job in midfield, got the ball right-hand side over to Nigerian Samuel Chuzi. He cut inside on his left foot and then took a shot and just went wide. So they might catch him on the break. With Real Madrid now coming forward, trying to get that equaliser. I think there'll be space for Villarreal to get the goal. So 55 gone. Villarreal 1, Real Madrid 0.
Thanks very much, Pat. And We will, of course, be back to Pat as and when things unfold in that game. But sounds like a very interesting game taking place there. Let's go to Middlesbrough against Brighton. Plenty of goals in this game, Jackson Cole, and Brighton have gone close to finding goal number 5.
They certainly did. It was Middlesbrough 1, Brighton 3. It was Alexis McAllister again. There's a free kick which whistled just over the bar. He settled into this game really well after that crunching challenge from Hackney on him early doors. Brighton, they've got their championship opponents exactly where they want them. They play the ball. They play nice passing football, and they're doing exactly that. Not really doing too much with the ball, but they're just winding down the clock as we enter like the 70th minute. I think, though, this might be a bit of a blessing in disguise for Michael Carrick's men. We love the FA Cup, but promotion to the Premier League, that's where it's really at. And the FA Cup, it'll just be a bit of a distraction for Middlesbrough at the moment. So, yeah, we're coming towards the final 20 minutes, and it's Middlesbrough 1, Brighton 3.
Remember those famous words, the FA Cup is just a distraction. That's what Jackson Cole just said. And that is probably what Steve Cooper is going to be saying in his post-match conference, because Blackpool have just gone and added a 3rd goal in their game against Nottingham Forest. We'll be across to hear all about it very shortly, but it's now Blackpool 3, Nottingham Forest 0. CJ Hamilton, I can tell you, the goal scorer of the goal at Bloomfield Road. And we will cross in just a few moments' time to hear all about that. There is a penalty for Real Madrid, who are trailing at Villarreal by a 1-0. Patrick Norat is watching that one. We'll cross to Patrick once that all unfolds. In Turkey, Cenk Tosun has scored for Besiktas, who lead Kasimpasa by 1-0. Marseille are through to the next round of the Coupe de France. They have overcome Jerez by 2-0, despite playing all but 10 minutes of that game with just 10 men after Eric Bailly was sent off, the former Manchester United player. So they make light work of their tricky looking tie against lower league opposition and are through to the next round. So that's where we're sitting at the moment. Celtic 2-0 up on Kilmarnock. In the FA Cup, there are shocks afoot, and one of them is at Bloomfield Road. Blackpool 3, Nottingham Forest 0, and it looks like game over for Nottingham Forest, Andrew, as Blackpool just got an added a 3rd.
Yes, Barry, it certainly looks like it. It's astonishing. I have to say, Forest have had enough chances in the second half to at least be level, given that they're now 3-0 down. They had a huge chance for Nottingham Forest. The ball was worked down to the byline, pulled back to the penalty spot, but Surridge, who had just come on, absolutely skied his shot over the bar from 12 yards. Then for Blackpool, CJ Hamilton found himself in exactly the same kind of space in the penalty box that Emmanuel Dennis has been trying to plough his furrow. But instead of trying to go for that top corner, he hammered it across the Forest keeper into the bottom corner and made it 3-0 to Blackpool. Blackpool, after going 2-0 up, was starting to defend their line, but Forest are starting to hand this game to Blackpool on the plate. They've missed so many decent chances, but you've got to hand it to Blackpool. They've had 3 chances and they've taken all 3. It's Blackpool 3, Premier League Nottingham Forest 0.
I told you a couple of moments ago that Real Madrid had a penalty. Let's cross to Patrick Noret. Real Madrid have scored a penalty, haven't they?
Yes, they have scored a penalty. I would say a dubious one. You know, I said with all penalties, it was bar check. What happened was, again, Vinicius Junior found himself into the box, and he went between 2 defenders, and it was alleged that one of the defenders handballed the ball. Now, I looked at it again. It's very dubious. I would say ball to hand. Anyway, the penalty was given off to a VAR check. Who stepped up? Benzema stepped up, scores anything, hit it left-hand side of the goal. So at the moment now, with 61 played, Real 1, Real Madrid 1. We have a game still on our hands.
We've got several games on our hand this afternoon. Villarreal 1, Real Madrid 1, Blackpool 3, Nottingham Forest 0, Hull City 0, Fulham 1, Fulham edging that one, Middlesbrough 1, Brighton and Hove Albion 3, and Bournemouth 2, Burnley 4. I did cross to Jackson a few minutes ago. Said, have Brighton found a fifth? They very nearly found a fifth, but they've only got 3 at the moment. I should have said fourth, so sorry for confusing him. Chance for Bournemouth down on the south coast. The goals have dried up a little bit, Josh, but not quite over yet. Bournemouth created a good chance.
Well, it was the crossbar that was in between Bournemouth and their 3rd goal in this game, and a way back into the game at the Vitality Stadium. It was whipped in from the left-hand side. It was Christie who rose highest, and his initial header was cleared off the line by Ashley Barnes. The header then went high and wide back into the Bournemouth area, and then Bournemouth got another header onto it, and it hit the bottom of the crossbar and was cleared out again through a corner. It was absolute pandemonium for a couple of seconds at Bournemouth, as they thought they might have found their way into the 3rd, but it's the post and Ashley Barnes that keep the score. Bournemouth 2, Burnley 4, 20 minutes left in this one.
Guess what? Real Madrid have scored from the penalty spot. Straight up the other end, Villarreal win a penalty, and they have scored it. We'll cross to Patrick. We'll go to Patrick Norret straight away. He can tell us about Villarreal regaining the lead against Real Madrid.
Yeah, what a game it is. It didn't take long, did it? I would time like 30 seconds from the time Real Madrid got their penalty and Villarreal went the other end and got theirs. There was a foul in the box, and the Real Madrid players were saying to the ref, go and check with VAR, but he decided not to, gave the penalty. And Moreno stepped up, left foot, right hand side of the goal, his left hand side, right hand side of the goalkeeper. It's now with, 63 gone. Villarreal 2, Real Madrid 1. And at the moment, it looks like Real Madrid are going to make a sub. I can't say who it is at the moment. I will tell you later when you come back to me. They're making changes to see if they can get back to the game or even win it.
Thank you, Patrick. Goal from the penalty spot, also in one of the FA Cup ties taking place this afternoon, and it's League One Ipswich Town, thanks to Connor Chaplin, 16 minutes from time, that now lead Rotherham United by 2-1 at Portman Row. So a penalty to tell you about in that. Aberdeen 1, St Johnstone 0. Luis Lopez with the goal at Pittodrie in the Scottish Premiership. And Queen's Park, what a story that is. They're currently pushing for promotion to the Scottish Premiership. They're 6-0 up this afternoon in their match away at Cove Rangers. They used to play their home matches in front of a handful of people at the old Hampden Park, the big national stadium in Scotland. They sold up that stadium a couple of years ago. They're having a new stadium built outside, which probably isn't going to be big enough for Scottish Premier League football, ironically. They're playing elsewhere at the moment. They might have to rethink that. Maybe they need to move back into the national stadium if they make it into the Scottish Premier League next season, or Premiership as it is known, of course. So plenty of goals flying in. Estupinan is on for Hull, but that's just one of a number of changes, Richard Bond, in the game between Hull City and Fulham.
Yes, Estupinan's come on for Hull. He is their top scorer this season, as they've looked a bit blunt at times, Hull, in the final third. They've also brought on Benjamin Tetty, who's been out since September with a hamstring problem. So they've gone for the juggler now, Hull, as they need to get this goal in the next 10 or so minutes. For Fulham, they've also made a couple of creative changes, as perhaps they're looking to maybe get that break goal on the counter to seal the victory. It's Tete, who's come on for Bobby Decordova-Reid, and Joe Polina on for Andres Pereira as well. So both sides freshening things up. Fulham, though, I would say looking resolute at the moment in their performance, holding on. So at the moment, it's Hull City 0, Fulham 1.
Middlesbrough against Brighton. Sounds like a very entertaining game at the Riverside, and a big chance. The woodwork has been hit by Brighton and Hove Albion, Jackson Cole.
Yes, and it's that man again, Alexis McAllister. It's no exaggeration to say, even though he's been on the pitch for just 34 minutes, he could have had a hat-trick in this second half. It was another free kick, and it was a David Beckham-esque almost. He just curled it from the right, and it just clipped the outside of the post. Zach Steffen was rooted to the spot. I do think with Middlesbrough, they've just run out of steam. Alexis McAllister, he is in a league of his own, and he's running the show. And I think Middlesbrough, they've run out of ideas, run out of energy, and well, this FA Cup tie, it's only going to go one way. It's Middlesbrough 1, Brighton 3.
Well, thank you very much, Jackson. An equaliser for non-league Boreham Wood against Accrington Stanley in the third round of the FA Cup. It's come from the Zimbabwe striker, Lee Ndlove. It's now Boreham Wood 1, Accrington Stanley 1 in that game at Meadow Park, which is, of course, where the Arsenal women play all their home games. And it looks like it's game over at the Riverside. Alexis McAllister has done it again. The World Cup winner has just gone and scored his second goal of the afternoon. It's now Middlesbrough 1, Brighton and Hove Albion 4. And certainly it's a harsh lesson for Michael Carrick in the world of management this afternoon. He has done wonders since he's arrived at Middlesbrough as manager, but he's really seen face value just how far away Middlesbrough are from competing with the likes of Brighton and Hove Albion in the Premier League this afternoon. We will be across to Jackson Cole to tell us about that goal in a short while. Ipswich 3, Rotherham United 1. It looks like Ipswich are going to be in the draw for the fourth round. Freddie Ladapo with the goal. And, well, I should imagine it's probably a lot of celebrating going on at the moment at Shrewsbury Town. League One side, Shrewsbury Town. Matthew Pennington has scored just 9 minutes from time. They lead Championship high flyers Sunderland by 1-0 at the New Meadow. That could be one of the shocks of the round as well. So in the Cup in France, Strasbourg, Königshofen 0, Clermont 0, and Strasbourg Konnershofen have won on penalties to create a surprise in that cup match. That's over in France, where it is Coupe de France weekend. It's FA Cup weekend here in England, and well, it's been a very exciting afternoon so far. Let's head back to the South Coast, shall we? Bournemouth against Brighton. Josh Bailey's letting us down. He's been providing us a regular flurry of goals all afternoon. I think it must be at least 15 minutes since we've had a goal, isn't it, Josh?
I know. I'm so sorry to disappoint Barry, but there is no goals again yet in this game. Only the 6 to talk about so far. And really, this game has kind of reached a little bit of a stalemate. Burnley, with 15 minutes to go, pretty happy just to be sitting in. And with the 2-goal advantage they've got, don't really want to be taking any particular risk on the counter. So it's now up for Bournemouth to try and find a way through this rigid Burnley defence. So hopefully there's more goals to report. There's only 13 minutes for Bournemouth to find a way back into this game and for them to force a replay, which could see them continue their FA Cup run and get into the fourth round. But right now, it's Burnley in the hat for the fourth round. 13 minutes to go. Bournemouth 2, Burnley 4.
And up on the West Coast, Blackpool are heading towards round 4. Let's go to Andrew Bonacouri. Are the Championship strugglers just running down the clock to see off Nottingham Forest?
Actually, Barry, that's exactly what's happening. I have to say, this game is fizzling out a bit. It's actually Blackpool who've just been hoofing it forward and had a couple of decent attempts on goal, but Forest as an attacking force really seemed to be spent. Emmanuel Dennis getting frustrated, almost getting himself a booking for a shirt pull, but so far Blackpool just managing the game in the second half very, very well. I said at half time, I wonder how they'll treat this second 45 minutes, and they've defended very well. They have allowed Forest to have some decent chances. If Forest had taken those chances in the second half, we'd be looking at a very, very different result. But as it stands, Blackpool have taken their chances, Forest haven't taken theirs, and now Forest are just playing the ball around and don't seem to be offering too much energy in an attempt to get something back from this game. They seem quite happy to let the clock run down. And of course, happier than them will be Blackpool, because it's Blackpool 3, Nottingham Forest 0.
You are listening to Football Live on Brila FM.
Now, at the top of the show, I promised you there would be shocks. Well, there's a couple in the offing. Blackpool 3, Nottingham Forest 0 is certainly one of them. Would have had 6 minutes plus injury time left in that game. We just heard from Andrew Bonacouri, who's watching that game. Boreham Wood 1, Accrington 1. It looks like Boreham Wood might force a replay away at League One. Accrington, it's Bournemouth 2, Burnley 4, the Championship side winning at Premier League opposition. Chesterfield are 10 minutes away from upsetting the apple cart. The non-leaguers are 3-2 up on West Bromwich Albion. Fleetwood 2, QPR 1. Could be another shock there as well. Ipswich are from a lower league than Rotherham, but beating them 3-1 this afternoon. No such shock as Hull 0, Fulham 1 and Middlesbrough 1, Brighton 4 would tell you. Ironically, Hull 0, Fulham 1. That was Fulham's 1-0 win in midweek as well. They're winning 1-0 again away from home. And at the same time, Brighton won 4-1 at Everton. They're winning 4-1 this afternoon at Middlesbrough. There could be a shock at Shrewsbury. Their late goal there has them ahead against Sunderland by 1-0. 5 minutes to go at New Meadow. So shocks, yes, there are some shocks coming in. Just having a quick look at the lineups from the game between Brentford and West Ham United, which kicks off inside the hour. Plenty of changes from Brentford's side of things. Ben Mee does play. They've gone with Godosh in midfield. De Silva, who scored one of the 2 goals when they beat West Ham away in the league just a few days ago. Visser will lead the line, and it's Strakosha that takes over from Kanosh in goal. For West Ham United, they've gone with Fabianski in goal. Ben Johnson, Bonner will be the 2 fullbacks. Paqueta does play. Declan Rice will skip at the side alongside Souček in midfield. And Mikel Antonio and Jared Bowen are also starters along with Emerson. So a strong lineup from West Ham United. Both of these sides will be eyeing up progress in the FA Cup, although, of course, it is survival at the moment that is number one aim for West Ham United. Survival is also the name of the game for Blackpool, but they're surviving very, very easily this afternoon. They're now 4-0 up on Nottingham Forest at Bloomfield Road. Andrew Bonacore is watching that game. We'll be across to Andrew in the next few minutes to find out who's gone and got that goal. Fulham have come close to wrapping up the game. Richard Bond at the MKM Stadium. Still Hull City 0, Fulham 1, but it was nearly 2-0.
Yes, and it was Dan James who's managed to pop up on the right-hand side. And Tom Kearney's really been dictating play this second half and starting to really fashion Fulham over the line now at the minute. But James picked the ball up right-hand side. His low-drilled effort pulled the best save out of Matt Ingram all afternoon. One-handed save, diving around the post. To keep this side in the game for now. Anything can happen in the last few minutes, but it's looking Fulham as if they're going to keep their third clean sheet in 4. This is Hull City 0, Fulham 1.
All away from home as well from Fulham. They've tightened up shop. They're a hard team to beat now. Andrew Bonacore has been watching the Blackpool Forest game, and there's no way back now for Nottingham Forest. A 4th goal, Andrew, for Blackpool.
Yeah, it's an amazing result, Barry, and it was at a Blackpool corner. No sense of urgency at all from Forest to try and prevent the ball from going out of play. Hammered in hard and low, and it was swept in very neatly by Jerry Yates, bang on the penalty spot, in off the underside of the crossbar. Always like it when the ball hits the underside of the bar. Just went in over the line. Absolutely nothing that Wayne Hennessy could do to stop that. Forest on the wrong end of an absolute tonking here. Just to repeat, Blackpool have taken almost every chance that they've created, and Forest wasted a load, especially at the start of the second half. Steve Cooper, not that happy, but I suppose deep down, at least they can focus on the league. It's now Blackpool 4, Nottingham Forest 0.
Guess what? Brighton have only gone and got a 5th away at Middlesbrough. It's now Middlesbrough 1, Brighton and Hove Albion 5. Dennis Undav has chipped in with goal number 5 for Brighton. We will cross to Jackson Cole to hear all about it in just a few moments' time. Just a recap on our games. Bournemouth 2, Burnley 4. What a cracking game that is. Middlesbrough 1, Brighton 5. 2 games there with 6 goals. Just the 1 goal for Richard Bond. Fulham have got it at Hull. 4 for Blackpool without response from Nottingham Forest. Real shock there. And Villarreal leading Real Madrid by 2-1. If that stays the same, it's advantage Barcelona in the race for the title in Spain. In Belgium, Charleroi have scored a goal in the 90th minute to snatch the victory at Eupen. 2-1 the score now. They were trailing in that game, but they're now ahead. A goal in the very last minute from Damien Marc has made it 2-1 to Charleroi. So that's where we're at the moment. Ipswich Town. Wes Burns, I beg your pardon, has scored. It's now that's from a penalty spot, by the way, Wes Burns. Ipswich Town 4, Rotherham United 1. Another result where the lower league side has turned on the style and are well ahead against Championship Rotherham United. Let's cross back to Middlesbrough against Brighton. Jackson Cole. Brighton are winning this one, and they're putting the trimmings onto things at the moment. They are really running away with things.
Yeah, it's become a bit of an FA Cup rout. It's Middlesbrough 1, Brighton 5. The fifth goal going to substitute Dennis Undav, who's only on the pitch for 7 minutes when he struck with his right foot to put the ball past Zach Steffen. A couple of minutes earlier, Alexis McAllister, he got his deserved second goal of the afternoon. Another fine finish from the world champion. This has been very, very good. A very, very good performance from Roberto De Zerbi's men. Middlesbrough, they're playing quite a couple of scalps in last season's competition, but there's been no sign of that whatsoever. Even when Chuba Akpom got that equaliser against the run of play, Brighton have had so much control over the game, and on they go to round 4, where they could be a dark horse for this competition, the Seagulls. But yeah, it's coming up to extra time now, and it's Middlesbrough 1, Brighton 5.
9 goals away from home this week from Brighton. Tell you what, if you're Manchester City or Manchester United or Arsenal or Chelsea, whoever it is that's through to the 4th round, and some of those big guns are yet to get there, and of course Chelsea against Manchester City tomorrow means that one of those two won't be there. None of them are going to want to be playing against Brighton and Hove Albion. That's one to avoid in the 4th round should the big guns get through, the individual big guns. Blackpool against Nottingham Forest. Guess what? That's right, another goal. Don't worry, Forest fans out there. I'm not going to completely humiliate you because you have got a goal back. It's now Blackpool 4, Nottingham Forest 1. And so it's too little too late, really, for Nottingham Forest scoring a goal late in that game. Blackpool 4, Forest 1. We'll drop across to Andrew Bonacori to tell us all about that goal very shortly. Hull City against Fulham, just the 1 goal in that game, but Richard Bond, Hull City have come very close to forcing a replay at Craven Cottage.
Well, this is football for you. Hull have had nothing in the second half. Fulham looking comfortable, but all it takes is one opportunity, and Hull were presented with this opportunity. They had a corner from the right, drilled in from Ryan Woods. His corner was met at the back post by Sean McLaughlin. He headed downwards, just finding the keeper in goals, and Marek Rodak hasn't had nothing to do really all afternoon as such. He's managed to scramble it away. Massive chance there for Hull. Will they rue this chance now? They've got a couple of minutes to go here, but maybe that's the sign that Fulham needed just to wake up a little. It's Hull 0, Fulham 1.
Yeah, so Fulham look as if they're going to squeeze through. Ryan Yates has got that goal for Nottingham Forest deep into stoppage time. We will cross and hear about that goal, and I understand actually that the final whistle has now blown at Bloomfield Road. Let's go across to Andrew Bonacori. Blackpool have beaten Nottingham Forest and caused one of the shots of the 3rd round.
Absolutely, Barry. It's a great result for Blackpool and fully deserved. On 17 minutes, a free kick midway in the Forest half was swept home by Ekpik and they really took control in the second half. Forest had enough chances to actually win the game, but it was a goal on 64 minutes by Jerry Yates, and then on 71, CJ Hamilton with an excellent finish. The final nail in the coffin came on 87. It was a Blackpool corner hit in hard and low for Jerry Yates to hammer in off the underside of the bar. And that Forest consolation goal that you've just heard about, it was a Hennessy punt downfield. Ryan Yates was found in the box, and amidst 4 Blackpool defenders, he managed to head it home. But Blackpool could have won it by more with a couple of late chances. Hennessy really in the last 5 minutes was the only Forest player who seemed to be trying to stem the tide of Blackpool attacks. Blackpool defended well and took their chances. Forest wasted enough opportunities to win the game, and as a result, they're out of the FA Cup as it ended. Blackpool 4, Nottingham Forest 1.
Well, that's how it's ended there. Second goal of the season for Ryan Yates, too little too late. Wout Weghorst, who of course was a hero for the Dutch in the World Cup, almost knocking out Argentina en route. He scored this afternoon. Deep into first half stoppage time, it's now Besiktas, his side 2. Kasim Pasa 0. Shrewsbury were leading with just 2 minutes to go in the game at home to Sunderland. But I can tell you, Sunderland have equalised through Ross Stewart after 92 minutes, and then Luke O'Neill has scored after 94 minutes, and the Championship side have literally snatched victory from the jaws of defeat at New Meadow. Let's tell you about, and I'll tell you what, the goals have been going in since very early on this afternoon in the FA Cup and in La Liga, and we haven't quite finished yet. Because it's Hull City 0, Fulham 2, and Dan James, who's on loan for the season from Leeds United, has gone and scored for Fulham, his second goal in the white of Fulham since joining on loan for the rest of the season from Leeds United. He scored an equaliser in a game that they ended up losing at home to Manchester United in the final game before the World Cup. He starts today and he finds the back of the net with a late goal to clinch Fulham a place in Monday's draw for round 4. It has been an exhilarating afternoon. Let's quickly recap on the results and the latest scores in the FA Cup. The results as they come in the FA Cup. Fleetwood have beaten Queen's Park Rangers. A shock there at Highbury up on the northwest coast. Fleetwood 2, QPR 1. Boreham Wood non-league. Boreham Wood have drawn 1-1 at home to Accrington Stanley, and they'll get a replay. As we just heard, Daniel James, 94th minute, has made it 2-0 to Fulham away at Hull City, and they clinch a place in round 4. Blackpool have beaten Nottingham Forest by 4-1. They got one back at the end, did Nottingham Forest. It's Chesterfield 3, West Bromwich Albion 3. The non-leaguers so close to causing an upset, but West Bromwich Albion have got back in a thrilling cup tie at the Technique Stadium. The non-leaguers Chesterfield look like they're forcing a replay in that particular game. Let's head to Spain, shall we? Villarreal against Real Madrid. Last time we heard, Villarreal were leading by 2-1. Is that still the case, Patrick Moret?
Yeah, Barry, still the case, 2-1. What's happened is Real Madrid made a lot of changes. They took off their midfield player Tumini, and it's not helping at all. So at the moment, with, 84 gone, it's still Villarreal 2, Real Madrid 1.
A heartache for Chesterfield and non-leaguers. 3-3 against West Bromwich Albion. Brandon Thomas Asante scoring his second goal of the afternoon to equalise for West Bromwich Albion in the 93rd minute. And that looks like it's going to go to a replay at the Hawthorns in 10 days' time. Let's head across to Richard Bond, who's watching Hull City against Fulham. Fulham have clinched it, Richard, with a late second.
Yes, well, it was a second goal very late into stoppage time as the game's just about finishing here now. It's 2-0. To Fulham. Dan James with the goal after Hull had sent their keeper Matt Ingram forward for a corner. From the resulting counter-attack then, long ball over the top from the goal kick. The centre-half, one of the centre-halves misjudged, I think it was Figueroa, I think, who misjudged the header. James was onto it like a flash, sprinted through into just a pass into an empty net from the edge of his penalty area. So it's clinched the game for Fulham, who now will progress on to the 4th round of the FA Cup and into the hat now. So comfortable afternoon for Fulham. It's Hull City 0, Fulham 2.
The final whistle was blown at the Vitality Stadium. Josh Bailey, Bournemouth against Burnley. No shortage of goals.
No shortage of goals. 6 goals here at the South Coast and at the Vitality Stadium. It ended up Bournemouth 2, Burnley 4. 2 goals for Benson. 2 goals to Zaori, and absolutely routed the Cherries today on their home turf. Vincent Kompany's turned Burnley's fortunes around. They've gone from a Route 1 type football club under Sean Dyche to free-flowing football under Kompany. And the Burnley fans, well, they couldn't be happier with it. They're top of the league in the Championship, and they're into the 4th round in the FA Cup. Full time here from the Vitality Stadium. It's Bournemouth 2, Burnley 4.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Josh. Let's quickly pop into the Riverside. Middlesbrough against Brighton. Brighton running away with it. Jackson Cole, have you been impressed with Brighton this afternoon?
Oh, very much so. No side will want to face this Brighton side in the 4th round. So it finished Middlesbrough 1, Brighton 5, a fine away performance from the Premier League side and their man of the moment, Alexis McAllister. Pascal Gross gave them the lead early on. The home side got level, very much against the run of play. Chuba Akpom, who's eligible for Nigeria, of course, rising high to head home his 14th of the season. Adam Lallana then made it 2-1 to Brighton at half-time. Then McAllister came on and just totally took the game away from Middlesbrough. He scored 2 goals, including one excellent flick with his weaker left foot. And then right at the end, substitute Dennis Undab, he rounded it off with an arrowed finish into the corner of the net. Just to say, McAllister, he was desperately unlucky not to score 2 free kicks, one of them hitting the post. But yeah, Brighton looked very, very good against a very useful Championship side. It's finished Middlesbrough 1, Brighton 5.
You can't see Alexis McAllister staying in a Brighton shirt for too long. If they hold him to the end of the season, I think they'd be more than happy. Let's quickly cross to Hull against Fulham. It's all finished, and Premier League has got the better of the Championship.
Yes, indeed. It's Fulham who've become victors here. 2-0 winners against Hull in a game of lacking very much quality and offensive in the final third. Fulham came out on top after a first half goal from Lion Kurzawa after Harry Wilson's shot had been only parried by Ingram in the Hull goal. They clinched it late, really, with Dan James as Hull pushed looking for an equaliser. But it's Fulham are in the hat now. Marco Silva looking to gain a little bit of a cup run maybe for Fulham this season. Hull City 0, Fulham 2.
Bournemouth 2, Burnley 4, Middlesbrough 1, Brighton 5, Hull City 0, Fulham 2, 3 away wins in those games. No away win at Blackpool, though. Blackpool 4, Nottingham Forest 1. It's still Villarreal 2, Real Madrid 1 in the game at the Estadio della Ceramica. Thank you very much to our reporters, Josh Bailey, Jackson Cole, Richard Bond and Andrew Bonacore, and of course, Patrick Norat. John Kane is our producer. We will, of course, be back tomorrow afternoon from the slightly later time of 5:20 in the afternoon for Manchester City against Chelsea, and we'll see you then on Football Live here on Brila FM.